Chapter 1, The Goddess Teacher. Parallel World, Lingzhou. These days, don't talk about love, and don't get emotionally involved in anything. Zhao Xiaoyan felt that his buddy, who could say such a thing, should be the same as himself now, otherwise he could not have uttered such a life philosophy of great enlightenment. His girlfriend of 3 years had forgotten their once solemn vows, forgotten all the good he had done for her and the countless ways he had shown her affection, and resolutely ran off with a man old enough to be her father. Just because the other person can afford that limited edition bag she's always coveted. Zhao Xiaoyan, we're already in our 4th year of university, and we're about to enter society soon. We all have to learn to be realistic. I can't see a future with you. In order to survive, I have to work my ass off to pay off the car and mortgage loans. This kind of life is not what I want. So, it's not that I'm heartless, I just learned it a little earlier than you. Sure enough, the fairy tale that love and affection are enough to live on is just a fairy tale, and fairy tales are only used to fool children. Friendship is worth less than gold. It's cruel, but it's just the reality. Looking at this rental house that he had just rented for 1,600 Singapore dollars the day before, Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't help but slap himself. He had no intention of renting a house, but at the beginning of his internship in his 4th year, Chen Yizhuan said, "Xiaoyan, we're about to graduate soon, and I want to have a home." When Chen Yizhuan said this, she made Zhao Xiaoyan so happy. He thought that he had finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel, that Chen Yizhuan was finally going to end their 3-year platonic relationship and be willing to have sex with him. His excitement was beyond words. The next day, he gritted his teeth and rented this 1-bedroom apartment near the university. He looked forward to living an unashamed cohabitation life in their first love nest. What he got instead was Chen Yizhuan sitting in the bald boss's BMW saying, "Let's break up." It turned out that Chen Yizhuan wanted a home, but it was not the same home as he wanted. The love nest was still there, but the lovebirds had flown away. The best partner for a broken heart is alcohol. A little pain, a little drunk, a big pain, a big drunk. Zhao Xiaoyan needed to use alcohol to numb himself. A case of beer, a few bags of preserved food, and a pack of cigarettes. Since starting a relationship with Chen Yizhuan, Zhao Xiaoyan has been extravagant for the first time, and has been generous with himself for the first time. Because since starting a relationship, he has given Chen Yizhuan most of his living expenses, and he is the one who takes care of his wife. On the contrary, he has been living frugally, and is often resented by Chen Yizhuan for not being romantic. Romantic my ass. I want to be romantic, but romance is also called spending money, and I've already given you all the money, right? How can I be romantic? What else can I use to be romantic? Half a box of beer down the hatch, the table is a mess, and the cigarette ashes are flying everywhere. Zhao Xiaoyan is slightly drunk, but this feeling of floating is really good. Damn it, it's just money, right? When I'm rich, I'll pick up every pretty girl I see, and they'll all be prettier than you, Chen Yizhuan. I'll make you regret it. Even if you beg me, on your knees and kowtowing, I won't even give you a second glance. With these words, which smelled of a bet, half a bottle of beer was guzzled down. Ding, binding host detected, divine wealth system activated. At that moment, a mechanical voice sounded in Zhao Xiaoyan's head. Ding, binding successful. Host locked high-value target. Any spending after targeting a beautiful woman will be refunded according to the target L beautiful woman's favorability towards the host. Please enjoy the life of a godly rich man to the fullest. Zhao Xiaoyan instantly sobered up a lot. This is a system? Could it be that even the heavens could no longer bear to watch, and so gave me a system? Zhao Xiaoyan thought it was just an after-drink hallucination, and called out in his heart. System, is it really you? Ding, please enjoy the life of a godly rich man to the fullest. This is real, not a hallucination. The so-called system in hand, the world is mine. Now that he had the system, Zhao Xiaoyan didn't care about drinking anymore. All he could think about was trying it out right away to see if it was true that he could get cash back. However, the system required that he spend money on beautiful women. But it was almost 11 p.m., and he wasn't at school, so where was he going to find beautiful women? At that moment, Zhao Xiaoyan saw the mobile phone on the coffee table that he had used since his freshman year. Right, live streaming. Aren't there beautiful women everywhere in the live streaming room? He could use them for his experiment. If I can, I don't have to do anything else, I can just reward them every day and be on the top of the leaderboard every day. Oh yeah, didn't I hear that if you become a big brother, you can even get the anchor to drop in? Chen Yizhuan doesn't look down on me, so I'll just drop in the female anchors every day, today an older sister, tomorrow a young girl, today white hair, tomorrow black hair. There will be different beauties every day. While thinking this, the phone quickly opened Douyin and entered the live broadcast. This one looks pretty. System, is this anchor okay? System. Zhao Xiaoyan swiped his hand and jumped to the next live broadcast room. Damn, this one is okay, just these legs alone can get a full score. System. Zhao Xiaoyan swiped again. Wow, this one should be okay, young wives are really the most seductive. System. He had switched between 30 or more female anchors, and Zhao Xiaoyan felt that no less than 10 of them were beautiful. But the system didn't respond at all. This really made Zhao Xiaoyan panic. System, what kind of beauty can be locked on? After changing so many, how come none of them work? Ding, the host can only lock onto beautiful women he has seen in real life. Hearing this explanation, Zhao Xiaoyan was so angry that he almost threw the phone. Why didn't you tell me earlier? It made me waste half a day's effort, and in the end it was all in vain. It seems that being the big brother in the live broadcast room doesn't work, so Zhao Xiaoyan had to go find a target to lock onto tomorrow. Just as he was about to turn off his phone, he accidentally made a hand movement, and the screen switched to the next live broadcast. Zhao Xiaoyan looked at it subconsciously and was shocked to discover that the female host on the screen was someone he actually knew, Sun Yalan, the teacher from the art history class he took as an elective in his junior year. At that moment, the system's voice also sounded. Ding, found lockable target. Sun Yalan. Age, 29. Face value, 93. Height, 171. Strategy, 0. Favorability, 5. Sun Yalan in the camera shot, her long wavy hair had been tied into a bun, and she was wearing a black, tight-fitting dance costume. Her long, slender legs had no extra fat on them, and even though she was only wearing dance shoes, they still looked long and straight. Zhao Xiaoyan experienced a flutter in his heart at the sight of Sun Yalan's beauty. Chapter 2, The Correct Way to Use Cashback. Sun Yalan is not young, 29 years old is the most feminine time. Unlike those little girls, Sun Yalan exudes a mature woman's charm all over her body. With the help of the tight dance clothes, the temptation is simply irresistible. Zhao Xiaoyan's eyes are about to pop out of his head, and she is worthy of being a dance teacher. When he was a junior, he chose art history as an elective course. The reason he chose this course was because Chinyijuan said she wanted to take this elective course to enhance her artistic sense. So Zhao Xiaoyan also signed up, and Sun Yalan was the teacher. However, at that time, there were no benefits like live broadcasts. The class was not held in a dance studio, but in a proper classroom. Because art history classes do not teach dance, they talk about the history of the development of dance art. The probability of finding a beautiful woman among university teachers is actually very low. But Sun Yalan is not only beautiful, she is outstanding in every aspect, including her figure and temperament. Therefore, Zhao Xiaoyan was very impressed by this beautiful teacher. In addition, because of her outstanding appearance, Sun Yalan is actually very famous throughout Lingzhou University. Since the system has given a prompt, Zhao Xiaoyan only needed 0.1 seconds to make a clear lock. Ding, target locked. Ding, target's current favorability towards the host is 5, and the host will get 5 times the cashback for spending on the target. Sun Yalan, in front of the camera, is teaching dance to her fans. She is a professional dance teacher herself, so it is only natural that she would do a live broadcast, and she is definitely more than capable professionally. However, what surprised Zhao Xiaoyan was why Sun Yalan would do a live broadcast. Although Sun Yalan is very pretty and has an attractive figure, the number of fans in the broadcast room is pitifully small, only 37, and most of them are male fans. As Sun Yalan performed various dance moves, the comments in the broadcast room exploded. What are my virtues and abilities that I can get such a lucky broadcast room? Host? I feel that you didn't lift your leg high enough just now, lift it again so I can correct you. I've already placed an order for a dance costume. Even though I'm a guy, I love dancing too. The host's dance moves are really big, no, the costume is really skimpy. The live broadcast room has 47 people, and the comments are flying. But it's obvious that it's a guy posting, and the content is getting more and more risque. The character appears in several people's comments. But don't let the comments section fool you, the gifts that can be sent are really few and far between. After half a day, it's just a flower every now and then. Since he was his own teacher and also a target locked by the system, Zhao Xiaoyan felt that if he didn't send some gifts, he would be embarrassed. Well, of course, the premise was that the system said there was a 5x cashback. Zhao Xiaoyan used to watch live broadcasts just to pass the time. And he was also embarrassed to watch live broadcasts in front of Chen Yizhuan. As a member of the Free Party, Zhao Xiaonian's platform had no money. So he clicked directly on the recharge interface and hesitated when it came to the recharge amount. After thinking it over, he still didn't dare to recharge all the remaining money he had. After all, was there really a cashback? How long would it take for the cashback to arrive? These were all unknowns. To be on the safe side, Zhao Xiaonian decided to give it a try and recharge 240 yuan first. The recharge was credited instantly, and Zhao Xiaonian immediately sent out 2 gifts. Oxen that want to till the fields, Porsche 1. A cow that wants to plow the fields, Porsche 2. In her phone, Sun Yelin happened to sit down in front of the mirror to rest, and saw the 2 special effects of Porsches, so she said to the screen, "Thank you for the Porsche from the cow that wants to plow the fields." Although the words were words of thanks, her expression was still one of tranquility, and she did not seem particularly excited. This was not because Sun Yelin was pretending, because when you saw her normally, she basically had this same expression. As Zhao Xiaonian's rewards increased, the comments in the live broadcast room also increased. Damn, is this name the only one I understand? This brother has written his thoughts into his name. After some calculations, this big brother must be single, identification complete. Someone is acting like a big brother in the live broadcast room, come and have a look. Reading the comments from netizens, Sun Yelin realized just how ambiguous the name of the person who had sent her gifts was. An instant of embarrassment appeared on her face, but it was fleeting. Zhao Xiaonian heard the mechanical voice of the system the moment the gift was sent. The host has spent 240 yuan on the target Sun Yelin, triggering a 5x cashback. Then, Zhao Xiaonian received a bank transfer notification. Dear user, 1,200 yuan has been transferred to your account with the last digit 5418, and the current available balance is 1,423 yuan. The cashback is real, it's really 5 times the cashback. Zhao Xiaonian nearly jumped out of his skin when he saw the account information. Since it was real, Zhao Xiaonian had no more qualms and immediately went back to the Douyin recharge interface. This time, without the slightest hesitation, he directly charged the 1,200 yuan he had just received into his account. Ox that wants to till the fields, Porsche 1. Ox that wants to till the fields, Porsche 2. Cattle that want to till the fields, Porsche 10. With 1,200 yuan, 10 Porsches were sent directly to Sun Yalin's live broadcast room. Thanks to the cattle that want to till the fields and the Porsches they sent, thank you for your support. Sun Yalin also expressed her gratitude at the first opportunity. This time, Sun Yalin's face finally showed a different expression, and her voice was a little unnatural. Because there were 12 Porsches in total, including the ones just now, it was the biggest gift Sun Yalin had received in the past 20 days of live broadcasts. Zhao Xiaonian also became Sun Yalin's #1 fan thanks to the 12 Porsches he gave away. The fans in the broadcast room also started flooding the comments with likes, and the number of comments also increased significantly. Anchor, this is not Nyo, this is your Nyo brother. Who will never cause trouble. How can you make the big guy continue to reward you like this, Anchor? To express his gratitude, should the anchor not perform another dance, and will the Pure Land not? Or will the upstairs be tasteful and just wait? Looking at the comments, Sun Yalin didn't know how to respond. Then, Zhao Xiaonian didn't want to end it. This was just the beginning. There was a chance to get cash back, and he was completely sober. The 1,200 soft became 6,000 cash back again. Cows that want to till the fields, Carnival 1. Cows that want to till the fields, Carnival 2. With more money, the gifts he rewarded also increased in value, and the Porsche was directly replaced with a Carnival. Cashback, top up, reward. Cashback, top up, reward again. With the help of 5x cashback, Zhao Xiaonian is getting more and more cashback, and the money in his bank card is also increasing exponentially. This method is great, you don't even have to flirt, just reward directly is enough. Zhao Xiaonian is quickly calculating the money after the cashback while rewarding. 240 becomes 1,200. 1,200 becomes 6,000. 6,000 becomes 30,000. Chapter 3 Teacher, are you parachuting in? At this rate, if you just keep swiping for 2 or 3 hours, it's not a dream to break 1 billion yuan in assets. This is fucking faster than robbing a bank to make money. Having a goal gives you unlimited motivation. Zhao Xiaonian took out the speed of the Pure Boy and just poked away at the phone screen. What, sore hands? I'm just a loser, I'm not afraid of sore hands. 15 carnivals. 30 carnivals. 80 carnivals. 120 carnivals. Seeing the money in his bank account snowballing, Zhao Xiaoyan was about to go crazy with laughter. Meanwhile, Sun Yalan was going crazy too. A newcomer had suddenly appeared in her live broadcast room, and even though they weren't fans, they kept sending gifts. At first, she thought it was just 2 carnivals, but then she saw that it was followed by non-stop carnivals. What is the concept? 3,000 yuan for a carnival? Is there really someone who would spend money like that, recklessly throwing money away? Her monthly salary is only 5 carnivals, and in just a short while, this person has spent several years' worth of salary. In fact, Sun Yalan has only been doing live streaming for less than a month, and even before that, she had never been exposed to this industry. She only heard that live streaming was very profitable, and she desperately needed money, so she started streaming after work whenever she had time. She had previously thought that with her dance background and what she considered to be quite good looks, she could make money quickly just like those female anchors on the internet. But reality taught her a harsh lesson. She had underestimated live streaming. She didn't know how to set the mood, let alone encourage rewards, and she just taught dance like it was a class. And because she hadn't joined any guilds, after more than 20 days of live streaming, not only had the number of followers increased at a snail's pace, but the rewards from the live streams had totaled less than 3,000 yuan. It was a far cry from the expected amount. She was even prepared to simply give up on live streaming. But unexpectedly, a big shot actually came to her live streaming room today. As Zhao Xiaoyan kept streaming to the carnival, the Douyin platform had already used public broadcasting to make a big deal of it. In just a moment's time, Sun Yalan's live streaming room's popularity soared like a rocket, and the number of people online reached tens of thousands. And the comments section had already exploded. Holy shit, I thought it was a big brother at first, but I didn't expect it to be a local tyrant. What did I see? I actually witnessed the birth of a big brother. Brother, Nyo good, Nyo ba, please use the carnival to hit me too, one is fine. Local tyrant, this is obviously a crush on the anchor, and the anchor is smitten and parachuting in. Looking at the comments area, Sun Yalan actually knew that some big brothers in the live broadcast room would privately ask to meet the anchor after they had sent gifts. But she is not that kind of anchor. She is short of money, but she will never sell herself. She likes small amounts of money, but so much money is a hot potato. She was so scared that she didn't even say hello and directly closed the live broadcast room. The fans in the room. Zhao Xiaoyan, who is brushing gifts. Zhao Xiaoyan, who is happily playing with gifts, is watching the carnival combo break through the 200 mark and is ecstatic. Suddenly, everything went black, and Sun Yalan had gone offline. Damn, teacher, that's not very nice. All the other broadcasters are hoping that their big brother will broadcast more, but why did you just go offline? Are you sure you came here to broadcast? Then, less than a minute later, she received a private message. After the broadcast, after much hesitation, Sun Yalan still found the cow that wanted to till the fields in the background and sent a private message. Thank you for your support, this is my WeChat, add me when it's convenient. She was going to return the money she had received. Then, she quickly received a message with an ad. The cow that wanted to till the fields added you as a friend, the request has been approved. Sun Yalan clicked to approve it, and just as she was about to type, the other person sent a WeChat message. Teacher Sun, can you drop in? Sun Yalan was completely stunned when she saw the VX from the cow that wanted to plow the fields. Because the other person directly called her son Lasher, it meant that this local tyrant, who had just spent millions on her live broadcast, knew her, and presumably also knew her occupation. However, what she didn't expect was that the other person was so decisive, and directly asked her to airlift. Although she had just started her live broadcast, Sun Yalan still knew what airlifting meant. She had also heard that some big shots would throw away thousands of dollars to invite anchors to airdrop. As for what to do in an airdrop, it was definitely not as simple as having a cup of coffee. Knowing oneself and inviting oneself to airdrop. Who on earth was this person? Sun Yalan began to feel a little scared again. No one's money comes by easily, and even if it's an acquaintance, no one would give away millions for no reason, it must be for a purpose. What did this person want? Surely it wasn't to teach him dance. Then she thought of the big brother's straightforward name, Ox that wants to plow the field, and Sun Yalan had an ominous feeling. Looking at the message on her phone, Sun Yalan didn't know how to reply. Sun Yalan was now conflicted. She needed money, but she would never sell herself out for money. That was her bottom line. If she had to sell herself out, then why would she still be streaming? Zhao Xiaoyan, on the other hand, reluctantly stopped sending gifts. Damn, that's sour. But looking at his bank account balance, which had suddenly soared to 3 million, he couldn't stop smiling. It was truly a system that paid back users. In just 1 hour, he had gone from a loser with a 3-digit savings account to a young person with 7-digit savings. This up and down in life came so fast. So, the excited Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't sleep for a long time. He continued to watch the live broadcast for a while, but found that none of the people he knew in real life were there, so he had to reluctantly log out. As for Sun Yalan, after receiving his message, she didn't respond for a long time. As for the other people who suddenly started sending him private messages, Zhao Xiaoyan just ignored them after reading a few of them. Trying to add me? Huh, a bunch of losers who can't get cash back. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't fall asleep until almost dawn, and he slept straight through until noon. Since the 4th year is the graduation year, there are basically no more classes, and students are encouraged to start internships in society. To put it bluntly, internships are actually a way for students to start looking for jobs and enter society early to gain experience. Zhao Xiaoyan had already started looking for a job before, but unfortunately there are so many college students these days. For college students like them who have not yet graduated, finding a job is actually quite difficult. He had submitted dozens of resumes, but they all fell on deaf ears. Chapter 4: Sun Yalan keeps her appointment. But not everyone was unable to find a job. Some students did find work. Chen Yizhuan found a job and soon after got married to the balding middle-aged boss. Thinking about Chen Yizhuan, Zhao Xiaoyan suddenly remembered that he still owed his roommates money. Now that he had money, he should pay them back quickly and be free from debt. But as soon as he turned on his phone, he saw that there were more than 10 unread messages from VX. When he clicked on them, he saw that they were all from Sun Yalan. Sun Yalan, who are you? Sun Yalan, do we know each other? Sun Yalan, are you my colleague? Sun Yalan, are you there? Sun Yalan, I won't drop in out of the blue. I'll pay you back when the reward money is transferred from the platform. Sun Yalan, please reply if you've received this message. After reading the message, Zhao Xiaoyan almost laughed out loud. It seems that his words yesterday on VX scared Sun Yalan a lot. However, he had spent so much money on it, and in fact, as long as it was just for the cashback, it was purely a friendly support, but if there were other incidental benefits, he would also be able to accept it. Who is Sun Yalan? She is a famous beautiful teacher at Lingzhou University. She is beautiful, has a great figure, has a good temperament, and exudes a high cold imperial lady's charm all over her body. She is still single, but she is the dream girl of countless Lingzhou University students, and many male teachers are even courting her. If he can get such a cold goddess, it will definitely be something to brag about. He still remembers that it was because he said that when he got rich, he would meet and date a beautiful woman, and that each one would be more beautiful than you, Chen Yizhuan, that the system appeared. A man should be determined and focused. Don't forget your original intention. What's more, Sun Yalan is the goddess that the system has locked onto, a tool that can be used to get 5 times the cashback. For this reason alone, Zhao Xiaoyan won't let her go easily. Thinking about this, Zhao Xiaoyan picked up his phone, opened the map and searched for a while before sending Sun Yalan an address. The ox that wants to plow the fields, Miss Sun, are you free at 6 o'clock tonight? I'd like to take you to dinner. Lingzhou University, classroom cafeteria. Looking at the food in front of her, Sun Yalan had no appetite at all and was in a daze. Her mind was full of thoughts about last night. After the broadcast last night, she also had insomnia. Unlike Zhao Xiaoyan, she was afraid and sleepless. Who was that cow who wanted to till the fields? What was his purpose for giving her so many gifts? People are like this. When no one gives you gifts, you feel bad about not making any money, but now that someone has, you start to worry about receiving too many. Sun Yalan now regretted doing the live broadcast and wondered what had made her do it. But just then, her phone rang. She picked it up and saw that it was a message from the ox who wants to plow the fields, with an address and a sentence. For some reason, Sun Yalan let out a sigh of relief when she saw that the address was just a French restaurant, not a hotel. But then she suddenly had a shock. The ox that plows the field was in Lingzhou? Although she guessed that the ox that plows the field was someone she knew, she was still shocked when she confirmed that the other person was really in Lingzhou. Then she frowned again. You want me to parachute in? No way. Just then, the phone rang again, this time an incoming call. Seeing that it was marked as a call from her mother, Sun Yalan took a deep breath and answered the call. What is it, Mom? The voice of her mother, Lu Shumi, came over the phone. Lin, have you managed to raise the money yet? Tomorrow is the deadline. If you still haven't raised the money, your brother Coco will go to jail. Not yet. 3 million is a lot of money. It's not easy to borrow it. At this point, Sun Yalin couldn't help but rub her head. If it weren't for the 3 million, would a respectable university teacher like herself have to go live streaming? Without the live streaming, there would be no such mess. When Sun Yalin heard that she hadn't borrowed the 3 million, a man's voice came over the phone. Sister, why can't you borrow it? Aren't there a lot of people at your school chasing after you? I heard that there are quite a few rich second generation. If you ask them to borrow money and say you're willing to be their girlfriend, they will definitely lend it to you. Sun Haowei, are you trying to sell your sister? You're not a human being. Hearing the voice of her younger brother, Sun Yalin's temper flared up. If it weren't for this younger brother of hers, would she have to borrow money from everywhere? Would she have to do a live broadcast? And now he's even pushing her towards that playboy rich kid. What a real brother. Yalin, how can you say such things about your brother? As an older sister, shouldn't you help your younger brother? He is your own brother, can you really bear to let him go to jail? Lu Shumi's words came like a machine gun. Sun Yalin felt very uncomfortable, as if she had been hit hard. 5:50 p.m., 4th floor of Longshang Plaza. Rhine French Cuisine is a restaurant that specializes in French cuisine. It has Roman columns and metal chandeliers, and the overall decoration is also in the European style. It is quite famous in Lingji City. At the innermost window seat, you can see the sea through the floor-to-ceiling glass windows, and the view is very nice. At this time, there is a woman sitting at this table. The woman is wearing a long white dress with a pair of high heels, making her already long legs look very tall even when she is sitting. Coupled with the fact that she comes from a dance background, she has a unique sense of beauty even when standing and walking. This makes every move she makes seem very graceful. She has a good appearance, a good figure and a good temperament. Such a woman is conspicuous wherever she goes, perfectly illustrating the idiom outstanding among common people. In theory, being late for a date is a common problem for girls, but Sun Yalin not only wasn't late, she also arrived early at the agreed location. However, at this time, Sun Yalin didn't have the leisure to appreciate the beautiful scenery outside, but instead had a worried expression and was sitting slightly awkwardly. Sun Yalin actually didn't want to come. Although she was curious about who the person was who had rewarded her with hundreds of thousands of virtual points in the live broadcast room, she was only curious. When she received the VX from the cow that wanted to till the fields, she felt disgusted, and even at the first moment she had already made up her mind to return the money that the other person had rewarded her with, but that would have to wait until after the platform had finished calculating it. Although because the platform would take a portion, the money that was returned would be less than when the other person had rewarded her in the first place. But at least it represented her attitude. However, after receiving a phone call from her mother at noon, she, against all odds, agreed to come. Not only did she come, she also planned to see if the big shot in the live broadcast room was really an acquaintance of hers. If it was, she planned to ask the other person for a loan. Chapter 5. Is this fun? It really sounds contradictory. In the past few days, she has borrowed from everyone she can think of, plus her savings over the past few years, but she hasn't even managed to raise 500,000 yuan, let alone 3 million. On an ordinary day, if you borrow a few thousand or 10 or 20,000 yuan from a colleague, it's not a big deal. But you're asking for hundreds of thousands of yuan, and who would lend such a large sum so easily? Tomorrow is the deadline, and if she can't raise the money. When she first arrived, she had already asked at the restaurant reception, and the receptionist told her that the person who had reserved the table was a Mr. Zhao. Sun Yalin thought for a long time, but she couldn't think of any friends or acquaintances with the surname Zhao. Who is the ox that wants to till the fields? How should she ask? Would he lend her money if she asked him for it on the first meeting? Would he have any conditions? At the moment, Sun Yalin still looked aloof and elegant. But at this moment, her thoughts were flying around in her head, and a mess of questions came up one after the other. Sometimes she wanted to just let it go, and let Sun Haowei go to jail if he wanted. He was idle all day and was good for nothing. She had caused the trouble, why should she bear the consequences? But then she thought about her mother's cough, and she suddenly felt so tired. Ah, teacher Sun. Suddenly, a voice came from Sun Yalin, which startled her. She thought it was the mysterious person, and hurriedly turned her head to look. She found that at some point, a boy with a rather handsome appearance had been standing next to her. The boy looked to be in his early 20s, and he was dressed in a casual manner that was common among students, very ordinary. Looking at the boy in front of her, Sun Yalan suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. After a moment's thought, she said, "Are you Xianyan?" Zhao Xianyan didn't expect Sun Yalan to be able to call out his name, and to do so intimately. He felt flattered. "Teacher Sun still remembers me?" Sun Yalan nodded. "You signed up for my elective class last year, and your name is quite special." In fact, Sun Yalan only remembered that the boy was called Xianyan, mainly because the name was really easy to remember. Xianyan, it's so rustic. But as for the surname, she really didn't remember it, and she didn't bother to remember it on purpose. "Why are you here? Just got off work?" Seeing that he was her student, Sun Yalan subconsciously didn't associate Zhao Xianyan with the local tyrant. Besides, Zhao Xianyan's clothes at the moment really couldn't be associated with the word rich. Last year she taught students in their junior year. Since there are no classes in their senior year, most students begin to enter society and start working early. So after seeing Zhao Xianyan, she casually asked. Zhao Xianyan smiled and waved his hand, saying, "I don't even have a job yet, let alone a class. You've just entered society, so you must be able to settle down and not aim too high. At this time, you must learn to endure hardship. After all, the current employment environment is not very good." Seeing her students, Sun Yalan couldn't help but act like a teacher and start lecturing them. Zhao Xianyan also pretended to be busy and agreed, then pretended to be curious and asked, "Teacher Sun, are you here on a date with your boyfriend?" Sun Yalan would never admit that she was there to meet up with her boyfriend. Zhao Xianyan was just a student she had taught before, and they were not close, so she didn't bother to explain too much. She nodded perfunctorily and said, "Yes. See you later." Sun Yalan was telling him to leave. She didn't know why Mr. Zhao was there, and she didn't want her student to see her meeting up with her boyfriend. Zhao Xianyan, however, seemed not to have heard, and instead sat down smilingly in the seat opposite. "Oh. Ms. Sun has a boyfriend? Ms. Sun is so pretty, your boyfriend must be very handsome too, right?" Seeing that Zhao Xianyan not only did not leave, but also sat down across from her as if he knew her well, Sun Yalan became a little displeased, her brows furrowed. She felt that her student was being very inconsiderate. "Well, he's okay." Sun Yalan was impatient, then looked at Zhao Xianyan and said, "Classmate Xianyan, the teacher still has things to do, and my boyfriend will be here soon. It's not convenient for you to be here." Seeing that euphemism was useless, Sun Yalan had to call him out directly. However, at this time, Zhao Xianyan looked at Sun Yalan and revealed a playful expression. "Teacher Sun, how come I didn't know when I became your boyfriend?" Sun Yalan was stunned, and then revealed an expression of disbelief. "Could it be? It's you? How is that possible?" Sun Yalan's eyes suddenly widened, looking at this unremarkable student in front of her, and she subconsciously didn't dare to believe it. A local tyrant who spent more than 300,000 yuan in her live broadcast room could actually be her student? Zhao Xianyan sat up straight and extended his right hand. "Teacher Sun, let me introduce myself. My name is Zhao Xianyan, and I'm also a bull who wants to till the fields." Sun Yalan. In fact, Zhao Xianyan had arrived a long time ago, but he was watching from a distance. He initially sent a message over, mostly to tease this teacher. After all, the other party is at school, but is notoriously aloof. I heard that many single male teachers who asked her out were unsuccessful, so it's not surprising that Sun Yalan rejected him. It's just that this feeling of the enemy being in the open and I being in the dark is really gratifying. But to his surprise, an hour after he sent the VX, Sun Yalan actually agreed to meet with him, agreeing to meet with this local tyrant. This greatly exceeded Zhao Xianyan's expectations. At the same time, he was curious as to why the female teacher, who had given him a cold impression, had suddenly agreed. What kind of person was she in private, and was she as cold as she had seemed at school? So, Zhao Xianyan arrived early and sat down at an empty seat nearby, waiting. It was obvious that Sun Yalan had made an effort to dress up and put on light makeup before going on the date. At this time, Sun Yalan's expression was very complex, with a mixture of surprise, and anger. She felt like she had just been tricked, teased by her own student. He had obviously arrived and seen her come in, but pretended to be surprised to see her, playing dumb and teasing her for a long time. The thought that she had just said she was on a date with her boyfriend made Sun Yalan feel a little more ashamed. Sun Yalan really wanted to turn around and leave, but her hand tightened around the strap of her handbag, and she didn't stand up. Looking across at Zhao Xianyan, who was still wearing a smile, Sun Yalan's eyes were filled with suppressed anger. This is fun, isn't it? Ding, target Sun Yalin's favorability 20, current favorability 15. Ding, target's favorability is below 0, the host will not receive cashback for spending on the target Sun Yalin. Chapter 6, a promissory note? Absolutely not. Upon hearing the system's prompt, Zhao Xiaoyan was relieved to have already ordered the food and paid the bill in advance, otherwise he would have lost a lot of money. However, he also learned of another rule of the system: the favorability rating cannot be below 0, otherwise there will be no cashback. The favorability rating had dropped 20 points directly, so it seemed that the cold and aloof female teacher in front of him was really angry. Imagine if someone was treated like this. If it were Zhao Xiaoyan himself, he would have probably stormed off. But Sun Yalin, even though she was acting very angry, didn't seem to be about to walk away. That was surprising. Zhao Xiaoyan saw that the other person had no intention of shaking his hand, so he angrily withdrew his hand and said, "Sorry, Miss Sunday. But I didn't mean any harm, I was just playing a little joke." Joke? This joke is not funny at all. Sun Yalin said with a cold face. Zhao Xiaoyan scratched his head, not knowing how to explain. Since he didn't know how to explain, he simply didn't explain. There was no topic of conversation. Neither of them spoke, as Zhao Xiaoyan looked at Sun Yalin, while Sun Yalin fixed her gaze on the sea outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Teacher Sun, why did you become an anchor?" Zhao Xiaoyan felt that the atmosphere between the two of them was really awkward, and he started to make small talk. "None of your business." Sun Yalin shifted her gaze back to him, her face cold. "I'll return the money you rewarded me with yesterday, but not until the platform releases it." "No need, no need. Since it was a reward, there's no reason to take it back. Besides, it's normal to reward your favorite teacher. If I really have to return this money, my favorability rating will plummet, and I won't be able to earn cashback from her anymore. After all, it's more than 600,000 yuan, and now she's short of money. If she really has to return it, Sun Yalin will be reluctant to do so. But the fact that the reward was given to her own student made her feel a bit awkward. Especially when she heard Zhao Xiaoyan say that she liked the teacher, she couldn't help but frown again. "I appreciate you going to the live broadcast room to support the teacher. If you reward the teacher 50 or 100, the teacher won't say anything. But you actually rewarded so much, which is inappropriate. After all, he is her student," and Sun Yalin felt that she needed to educate Zhao Xiaoyan. This was entirely out of her professional nature as a teacher. You are still just a student, and you haven't started earning money yourself, so you can't just waste your parents' hard-earned money like this. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't expect Sun Yalin's words to turn so quickly. How did a nice date suddenly turn into a teacher scolding a student? Zhao Xiaoyan smiled and explained, "Ms. Sun, the money I have is not from my parents. Our parents are just ordinary workers. I have earned all this money myself. Well, to be precise, I have earned it from you." Sun Yalin was taken aback. "You have earned all this money yourself? Didn't you say you haven't found a job yet?" "I haven't found a job, but is that necessarily related to me earning money? Besides, even if I find a job, which job can earn that much money at once?" Despite the prestigious title of college student, another label for college students is cheap labor. How many college students work hard for a month and earn less than the security guard downstairs? Zhao Xiaoyan's words surprised Sun Yalin. A student casually threw 900,000 rewards at the anchor, so his family fortune must be more than that. Sun Yalin frowned. "You haven't done anything illegal, have you?" Zhao Xiaoyan stopped and shook his head. "No way, it's definitely legal income." Sun Yalin was relieved, and then thought again, since it is legal income, it is all the more important to save it and save it well. "I will transfer it to you after the platform has deducted the reward money. It is hard to earn that much money, so it should be spent on the right things." "Teacher, actually I have earned more than 300,000, that was just a small part." Sun Yalin almost choked on her words. 300,000, and that was just a small part. She suddenly felt that she, as a teacher, had failed. After all these years of work, she had not earned as much as her student who had not yet graduated. Suddenly, Sun Yalin seemed to have thought of something. She pursed her lips, hesitated for a moment, and then said with embarrassment, "Then, Zhao Xiaoyan, do you have 3 million? 2 million is also fine?" It was so embarrassing. She, a teacher, had actually asked her student to borrow money. But at the moment, she really had no other choice. She had borrowed from everyone she could think of, and if there was anyone else around who could come up with that kind of money, it would probably be her student, someone she didn't know very well. Moreover, he said that he earned the money himself, not from his parents. And he earned quite a lot, which gave Sun Yalan hope. Zhao Xiaoyan was once again completely confused. The tone of the conversation had changed again and again, and it had changed so quickly that he really couldn't respond. But the other person is the goddess he has targeted, and spending money can get cash back. He was just worried about how to spend money on the other person, and didn't expect the opportunity to come knocking on his door. However, the 15 favorability rating must be brought back, otherwise he will earn nothing and lose everything. Seeing that Zhao Xiaoyan hadn't spoken for a long time, Sun Yalan thought that Zhao Xiaoyan didn't want to, and her heart fell to chill. At the same time, she also felt that she had gone a bit too far. The other party has rewarded me with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now I'm asking for another 3 million. It's true that I'm being a bit presumptuous. After all, the two of them are just ordinary teacher-student relations, and their friendship is far from that deep. It's fine, just pretend the teacher didn't say it. Sun Yalan smiled reluctantly, and didn't intend to force the issue. Zhao Xiaoyan spoke up at this point instead. I do have the money. I'm just curious why you suddenly need so much money, teacher Sun? Seeing that Zhao Xiaoyan said that he had it, Sun Yalan saw hope. Really? Sun Yalan looked at Zhao Xiaoyan in surprise. Zhao Xiaoyan nodded. Ding, target Sun Yalan's favorability towards the host plus 10, current favorability 5. Seeing that the favorability had gone up a little, Zhao Xiaoyan seemed to see hope. Sun Yalan should be quite anxious, and her body unconsciously leaned forward. So can you give it to me now? I'm quite anxious to use it. He does have the money, but now it's Zhao Xiaoyan's turn to be at a loss. There is absolutely no problem with taking 3 million out of his card right now, but Sun Yalan's favorability rating is still negative. If he gives it to her, it will definitely be a losing deal. Before giving the money, Sun Yalan's favorability rating must be brought back. Even if it can't return to the previous favorability rating of 5, it must at least be above 2. Seeing Zhao Xiaoyan like this, Sun Yalan thought he was worried and immediately said, Teacher, I can give you an IOU and even calculate the interest. No. As soon as he heard that Teacher Sun was going to give him an IOU, Zhao Xiaoyan's head shook like a rattle. Chapter 7, A Dance. If I write an IOU, doesn't the money still belong to me if I don't pay it back? The system definitely won't count it as cashback. If the system decides that I'm cheating again, then it'll be more of a loss than a gain. If you don't need a note, I won't give you the money if you do. Sun Yalan. How about this, you don't need to write a note. Seeing that Sun Yalan seemed to want to say something else, Zhao Xiaoyan immediately spoke up, saying, How about this, you don't need to write a note, you just need to grant me a small wish. Sun Yalan asked, What wish? Yes, what wish? Zhao Xiaoyan had been hurrying his words to get here, the purpose being not to let Sun Yalan write him an IOU, but also to increase his favorability. But what wish should he mention? Suddenly, Zhao Xiaoyan thought of Sun Yalan's live broadcast last night, and he suddenly had an idea. Teacher Sun, how about you dance for me? Yes, if you dance for me, I'll consider this money a gift from me to you. There's no need to write an IOU. Sun Yalan couldn't believe her ears. Is your wish to watch me dance? Yes, I actually really like watching you dance, Sun Laosher. I love watching your dance at every school party, but because I'm far away, I can't see it clearly every time. That's true. Sun Yalan is a dance teacher, and dancing is her specialty. She is in charge of dance programs at various school events. Sometimes she will go on stage to give praise. Sun Yalan was dumbfounded, stunned for a long time, and asked uncertainly, The wish you are talking about is to watch the teacher dance for you? For a dance teacher, it is not strange at all to dance for students. Zhao Xiaoyan laughed and asked in return, Right. Otherwise, what do you think I want to ask for? Sun Yalan's face suddenly turned red. Ding, host's favorability towards Sun Yalan plus 10, current favorability 5. Zhao Xiaoyan, holy shit, that's okay. Very good. Since the favorability rating has returned, Zhao Xiaoyan didn't hesitate and directly transferred 3 million to Sun Yalan. There was no choice, Zhao Xiaoyan only had 3 million or so he could only transfer a portion first, and then transfer the rest after receiving the cashback. Ding, the host has spent 3 million for the target and can receive 5 times the cashback. And directly returned 15 million. Zhao Xiaonian's personal assets also directly broke through to 8 digits, reaching more than 15 million. Seeing that Zhao Xiaonian had really directly transferred 3 million to himself, Sun Yalan was surprised and couldn't help but laugh at herself. What seemed like a huge problem to her was a trivial matter that didn't even require a blink of an eye in the eyes of this student. Suddenly, a sense of defeat crept up. Such a student is really outstanding. Ding, goal, Sun Yalan's favorability towards the host plus 30, current favorability 35. Upon hearing the system's prompt, Zhao Xiaonian was taken aback, and then looked at Sun Yalan with a constipated expression. "What's wrong with you?" Sun Yalan asked in confusion. Zhao Xiaonian squeezed out a smile and said casually, "Oh, nothing, I was just wondering when I would be able to see the dance that the teacher danced for me alone." In fact, what Zhao Xiaonian really wanted to say was, "Can't you show your appreciation before I transfer the money, so that I don't miss out on 100 million? Sun Yalan, however, thought that Zhao Xiaonian was urging her to fulfill the condition, so she thought about it seriously. She said, "I don't think I can come back to school, the door to the practice room is already locked. Why don't you come to my place?" Go to Sun Yalan's place? And at night? Zhao Xiaonian, who had just felt bad about missing out on 100 million, instantly felt that it was not a loss. This is a pity. It was a French dinner, and the atmosphere between the two of them was quite nice. Zhao Xiaonian was happy because he had earned more than 10 million yuan, and Sun Yalan was happy because she had solved a problem that had been troubling her for a long time. It was the first time Zhao Xiaonian had eaten French food, but he didn't find it as delicious as the rumors had led him to believe. What he did find annoying was the speed at which the food was served. It was really slow, and the dishes were served one after the other, which made it a bit difficult to keep track of what was being served. Another thing was that each dish was also ridiculously small, and it was almost impossible to finish more than a mouthful of each one, so he just had to sit there and wait for the next dish to arrive. But it was expensive, and after spending a few thousand yuan, they were only half full. The only thing worth being happy about was that this meal brought Zhao Xiaonian several tens of thousands of yuan in rebates. Unlike Zhao Xiaonian's manner of eating, which was like a cow chewing peonies, Sun Yalan looked very elegant and natural throughout the whole process. Looking at the elegant Sun Yalan, Zhao Xiaonian couldn't help but be stunned. He had never seen a woman eat so pleasing to the eye. Sun Yalan saw Zhao Xiaonian looking at her and asked, "What are you looking at?" Zhao Xiaonian subconsciously said, "You are so beautiful, Miss Sunday." Sun Yalan. Sun Yalan did not live with her parents, but in a school apartment for teachers. Since Sun Yalan was not married, according to the housing standards, Sun Yalan lived in a one-bedroom apartment. The house is not Sun Yalan's, but was allocated to her by the school as a kind of teacher benefit. If Sun Yalan leaves the school will take back the house. After all, it is the first time she has brought a man home, even if he is a student, but Sun Yalan still doesn't want to be seen. The teachers' apartments are all lived in by teachers at the school, and if people see her bringing a man home, it would be bad if there were some gossip. Therefore, when she walked to the apartment, Sun Yalan's footsteps slowed down a lot, for fear that the clatter of her high heels on the concrete road would attract attention. Zhao Xiaonian, who was following behind her, found it interesting to watch Sun Yalan, who was acting like a thief. He never expected that the usually aloof goddess teacher would also have such a cute side. Sun Yalan is 171 centimeters tall, and when she wears a pair of stiletto heels, she is 176 centimeters tall, which is taller than Zhao Xiaonian. A white, slim-fitting dress on her gave off a unique mature charm. Zhao Xiaonian couldn't take his eyes off her. Sun Yalan, a former dance teacher, really had a great figure, definitely the type of woman that men would be amazed by and women would be envious of. Get the keys, open the door, turn on the lights. Sun Yalan pulled Zhao Xiaonian into the room and let out a long breath after quickly closing the door. Seeing Zhao Xiaonian looking at her and smiling, Sun Yalan blushed and hurriedly tried to change the subject to avoid the awkwardness. "What kind of dance would you like to see your teacher dance? Modern dance, or classical dance? I also know a little bit of folk dance." Zhao Xiaonian didn't know anything about this. But in order not to reveal his ignorance, he pretended to be indifferent and said, "It's fine, as long as it's something that Teacher Sun dances, I'll love to watch." Sun Yalan's face turned slightly red, and she nodded, "Then wait for me for a moment, I'll go change." Chapter 8, A Chance Encounter with the Class Flower. As soon as Sun Yalan left, Zhao Xiaonian began to take stock of the bachelor apartment. Although both were bachelor apartments, Zhao Xiaonian's was clearly much worse compared to Sun Yalan's. The bachelor apartment was not small, with the living room alone measuring more than 20 square meters. Because there was not much furniture, it visually appeared to be very spacious. It is clear that Sun Yalan is a very clean woman, and the whole house is clean and tidy. The air is also filled with a light, unidentifiable fragrance, which smells very nice. However, there is a whole wall of glass embedded in one wall of the living room, and an additional handrail has been installed more than 1 meter above the ground. Obviously, this is where Sun Yalan practices her kung fu at home during the week. With a slight creak, the door to the only bedroom was opened. Zhao Xiaonian turned his head and couldn't take his eyes off it. In the studio apartment, Zhao Xiaonian sat on the sofa and never took his eyes off Sun Yalan. 2 meters away from him, Sun Yalan was dancing to an English song. Zhao Xiaonian said his wish was to have Sun Yalan dance for him, but this was just to deal with Sun Yalan and save her teacher from wanting to write an IOU, not because he loved dancing. But as he watched Sun Yalan dance a contemporary dance, Zhao Xiaonian just wanted to shout, "I love dance." Sun Yalan was wearing the same tight-fitting dance clothes as she had worn on the live broadcast last night, which were a bit like yoga clothes. But unlike the gray ones from yesterday, she was now wearing a black one, like a black butterfly in constant motion. Watching it live was definitely a different experience from watching it on TV. At this moment, Sun Yalan was trying her best to immerse herself in the music and dance, but she just couldn't get into the dance routine that she had practiced countless times. Sun Yalan was very nervous, so nervous that even some of the movements that she usually performed with ease were a bit off. She now regretted why she had brought Zhao Xiaonian back to the dormitory to dance this dance. Zhao Xiaonian had already transferred the money, so she could have simply made an appointment to dance in the school's practice room. But at the time, during dinner, she was so happy that all she could think of was to fulfill Zhao Xiaonian's wish as soon as possible. Although her dance teacher often wears this kind of dance uniform to teach students, and there are also many male students. And she has also participated in many performances like this, and she doesn't feel anything at all. But now she is at home alone with a man, dancing alone and up close for a man. She suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of shyness, and she was even a little nervous. Especially when she saw Zhao Xiaonian's unwavering gaze, Sun Yalan was so nervous that she didn't dare to look at him again, and she just wanted the dance to end quickly. Perhaps because she was too nervous, she changed the high leg lift to a flat leg lift, and some of the large arm movements became much smaller, trying not to show off her figure too much. However, she didn't know that this attempt to hide her figure only made her look more attractive. Finally, the music ended, and Sun Yalan finished her last movement. "I'm going to change my clothes." Sun Yalan didn't even dare to look at Zhao Xiaonian, and after placing her hands on the front of her shirt and whispering a few words, she ran back to the bedroom and quickly closed the door. Leaning against the door, Sun Yalan took a few deep breaths to relieve her nervousness. 5 minutes later, when Sun Yalan came out of the bedroom wearing very conservative loungewear, she didn't see Zhao Xiaonian's figure, but only a note with a pen pressed on it on the coffee table. "Ms. Sun, I'm leaving first. Thank you for the dance today. You were really beautiful tonight. Signed, Zhao Xiaonian, not your student." As she read the note, especially the words "not your student," Sun Yalan, who normally had a cool and collected demeanor, couldn't help but blush slightly. Ding, target Sun Yalan's favorability +5, current favorability 40. Zhao Xiaonian, who had just left the teacher's apartment, calmed down a little. Damn, Sun Yalan's dance just now was so good that he almost couldn't hold back. If he stayed any longer, he didn't know what he would do. So after leaving a note, he left without saying goodbye. But not long after he left the teacher's apartment, he heard the system's feedback. At first he was taken aback, and then a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although Zhao Xiaonian could also stay in the dormitory, he had already moved out a long time ago. The dormitory had no bedding or anything, so if he went back now, he would have to sleep on the bed frame. So Zhao Xiaonian decided to go back to his rented house instead. Fortunately, the rented house was not far from the school, just a 10-minute walk. Zhao Xiaonian did not take the bus, and was prepared to walk directly back. Although it was almost 10 o'clock, there were still many students on campus. After all, September in Lingzhou was still under the jurisdiction of summer, and the temperature had not dropped yet. But as soon as he walked out of the school gate, Zhao Xiaonian saw 3 girls standing on the side of the road not far away, seemingly waiting for a taxi. And one of the girls, Zhao Xiaonian knew, was Lu Xinting. At this time, Lu Xinting was wearing a black slim skirt, with a pair of black stockings and black patent leather high heels underneath, which was very sexy. If Chinyijuan is the white moonlight in Zhao Xiaonian's heart, then the beautiful Lu Xinting is the goddess of most of the boys in the class. Just like Zhao Xiaonian's dormitory, the girl who appears most frequently in the bedtime chat is Lu Xinting. The first reason is that she is in his class, and the second reason is that Lu Xinting is the most beautiful girl in the class, and she is even in the top 3 in the entire department. However, Lu Xinting is also notoriously difficult to get to know. Although she has many suitors, none of them have ever succeeded. This is verified by the fact that Lu Xinting's strategy score is 0. Zhang Haolong, a rich second generation who is well informed and claims to have met countless women, also pursued Lu Xinting for a period of time, but also returned empty-handed. Afterwards, he once said at a dormitory chat that Lu Xinting is just a gold-digging girl with extremely high standards. That Zhang Haolong, an old hand at traveling through the flower garden, could say such a thing directly shows how deep Lu Xinting's cultivation is. Chapter 9, The 1.8-meter-tall hottie. Because Zhao Xiaoyan had previously been preoccupied with Chen Yizhuan, he had not paid much attention to the class flower and had even less contact with her. It was Chen Yizhuan who was familiar with Lu Xinting, and the two were in the same dormitory and regarded each other as best friends. Lu Xinting had introduced Chen Yizhuan to her job, and it was that job that had allowed Chen Yizhuan to hook up with her boss. Therefore, if we look into this from this perspective, Lu Xinting can be considered an indirect cause of Zhao Xiaoyan being kicked out. And it so happened that at this time, Lu Xinting happened to turn her head sideways and also saw Zhao Xiaoyan walking out of school. Ding, target locked. Lu Xinting. Age, 22. Looks, 83. Height, 167. Strategy, 0. Favor, 10. Zhao Xiaoyan. Toolman number 2 has appeared? Zhao Xiaoyan, who had been trying to pretend he hadn't seen it, suddenly didn't want to walk away after hearing the system's voice. Ding, target Lu Xinting successfully locked. Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability to the host is 10, which can trigger a 10x cashback. Zhao Xiaoyan wasn't at all surprised that his favorability rating had stayed at 10, because he and Lu Xinting were classmates and they hardly interacted with each other. After all, even Sun Yalan, who only took an elective course with the teacher last year, had a favorability rating of 5. This 10 points is a very weak student-teacher relationship. Seeing the other person looking over, Zhao Xiaoyan gave a smile and said, "Hi, Lu, going out so late?" She didn't expect Zhao Xiaoyan to greet her, so she replied perfunctorily, "Oh, going to a bar to relax." Lu Xinting and Chen Yizhuan were close friends, so she must have known that Chen Yizhuan had dumped Zhao Xiaoyan. Lu Xinting was also quite capable of playing the green tea card. Apart from having the standard beautiful girl's fair skin and good looks, the most attractive thing about her was her eyes with their upward curve, which were commonly known in Zhao Xiaoyan's hometown as fox eyes. They looked as if they could seduce people, and were very charming. It is also these eyes that have made Lu Xinting unknown to hook up with many boys, have fallen at her feet, attracted countless licks. Dog every day is not to send flowers or gifts. And Lu Xinting not only green tea, but also worship gold. Green not green tea aside, just worship gold attributes, Zhao Xiaoyan said what will not let go. Zhao Xiaoyan pretended not to understand the other's perfunctory, continued, "Really? Just what I want to find a place to relax, or I go with you. Just so you know, I'll pay for everything at the bar tonight." It's said that the cost of a bar is high. You buy a few dollars worth of beer outside, and as soon as you enter the bar, your status skyrockets 10 or 20 times. After one trip, spending a few thousand yuan is considered low consumption. It's really a place that student parties are deterred from going. However, Zhao Xiaoyan didn't think this way. He was eager to spend money, and the more he spent, the more he could earn. Lu Xinting was very surprised to hear Zhao Xiaoyan. Lu Xinting had heard Chen Yizhuan complain more than once that Zhao Xiaoyan was just a poor loser. Could a place like a bar really be affordable for a loser like him? And although they were classmates, she and Zhao Xiaoyan had basically had no contact, and she didn't even know if they had exchanged more than 10 words in their 3 years of university. When the other person suddenly said they wanted to treat her to a meal, Lu Xinting immediately thought that the other person was coming onto her, and she had seen plenty of guys like that before. He just got dumped and now he wants to hit on me? You should take a good look in the mirror. Lu Xinting thought to herself, and after adding the label of lame toad trying to eat swan meat to Zhao Xiaoyan's list of failings, she continued to flirt with him. Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability 5, current favorability 5. Zhao Xiaoyan, damn, my treating you is also reducing my favorability? What's wrong with you? Lu Xinting narrowed her fox eyes and sneered, Zhao Xiaoyan, are you sure you want a treat? You've never been to a bar, have you? I'm telling you, the cost there is not low. You can say whatever you want, but don't be embarrassed if you don't have the money to pay. Zhao Xiaoyan was of course not afraid. He had 8 digits in his bank account, and as long as Lu Xinting was there, he could get cash back, so what was there to worry about? It's fine, I have enough money. Seeing Zhao Xiaoyan like this, Lu Xinting wanted to say something, but a girl next to her whispered in her ear, "Let him go, it's not good to have someone treat you. Besides, you have to pay at the bar first, if he doesn't pay, he'll just leave in a huff. If he can afford to pay, we'll be making a profit." Lu Xinting thought it was true when she heard this, and she wouldn't lose out anyway. "Okay, then you can come with us. It's a deal, you're treating." "Zhao Xiaoyan, of course, I keep my word. All the expenses tonight are on me." Perhaps feeling that this was not harsh enough, Lu Xinting simply decided to go for broke. She waved her phone at Zhao Xiaoyan and asked, "Do you mind if I call some friends?" "No, of course not." Naturally, Zhao Xiaoyan readily agreed. The four of them took a taxi, with Zhao Xiaoyan naturally in the passenger seat and the three girls in the back. Along the way, the three girls chatted and laughed in the back, and none of them paid any attention to Zhao Xiaoyan. On the way, Lu Xinting made a few calls to shake people up. Zhao Xiaoyan wasn't embarrassed, but rather more excited about what was to come. After 20 minutes, the taxi stopped in front of the Seven Nights bar. Before they got out of the taxi, the loud music from the bar came out, especially the low drum sound, which was like knocking on the heart, making Zhao Xiaoyan feel a little uncomfortable. Zhao Xiaoyan had never been to a bar before. For one thing, he couldn't afford to spend money in such places before, and for another, he really couldn't muster any interest in such places. Zhao Xiaoyan had just finished paying the taxi fare and was about to follow Lu Xinting and the others into the bar when another taxi stopped nearby and four girls got out of it one after the other. The first three were okay, although they were dressed hotly, they were only so-so in looks and were only holding it together thanks to their clothes and makeup. It was only the last girl to get out of the car that made Zhao Xiaoyan's eyes light up. The first thing Zhao Xiaoyan saw were the long legs wearing a pair of open-toed thigh-high boots sticking out of the car. Just looking at this leg, Zhao Xiaoyan was sure that she must be a beauty. Sure enough. The next second, a girl wearing a silver sequined short skirt got out of the car. The girl's appearance was comparable to Lu Xinting's. Her long black hair was casually scattered down, giving her a lazy beauty. Judging by her face, she doesn't look old, probably in her early 20s, but in this outfit, she looks very sexy, the perfect combination of lust and innocence. After the girl got off the train, Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't help but exclaim, "So tall." At this time, the system's voice sounded again. "Ding, found lockable target. Zhang Yuhan. Age, 21. Face value, 82. Height, 181. Strategy, 0. Favorability, 0. Chapter 10, Booth or Table? Height 181. At this figure, Zhao Xiaoyan drew in a sharp breath. This was the height of a model, and with a decent appearance, she was simply perfect. What was there to think about when such a cashback opportunity came knocking at the door? Locked on target. It was just that. How was he going to approach such a girl? At this time, Lu Xinting and the others also saw this group of people, smiling and waving at them. "Yuhan, this way." Obviously, the four women who came later were the ones Lu Xinting had approached. This made Zhao Xiaoyan very happy. He was worried that he would not have the opportunity to get to know this long-legged beauty Zhang Yuhan, but now it was fine. "Xinting, who is this young man? It's not your good brother again, is it?" Zhang Yuhan asked, pointing at Zhao Xiaoyan. Lu Xinting gave Zhao Xiaoyan a subtle glance and said to Zhang Yuhan, "What? He is just a classmate of mine, Zhao Xiaoyan, who said he wanted to come to the bar to see the world. By the way, Zhao Xiaoyan said that he is treating tonight." Zhang Yuhan naturally understood the meaning of Lu Xinting's words, so she ignored Zhao Xiaoyan and followed the others into the bar, chatting and laughing. Zhao Xiaoyan smiled and followed them in. As soon as he pushed open the door of the bar, he was greeted by a waiter in a black jacket and bow tie after just a few steps. Seeing Zhao Xiaoyan behind the girls, he naturally took him for someone who knew the place. "Sir, do you have a reservation?" the waiter asked Zhao Xiaoyan. "No." "Then would sir like a booth or a table?" Zhao Xiaoyan didn't know the difference between the two and was about to ask the waiter when he heard Lu Xinting next to him speak first. A booth. In fact, if Zhao Xiaoyan hadn't shown up, Lu Xinting and her friends would have just chosen a table, which wouldn't have cost much. If someone came over to chat with them, they wouldn't even have to pay. After all, there is a minimum charge for booths, and the price is naturally more expensive. Lu Xinting often came to the bar, not for anything else, just to add more fish to her pond. Of course, she is not the type to accept anyone, she is only interested in rich people, and she won't even look at the poor. Zhao Xiaoyan naturally didn't know that just now, he had been tricked by Lu Xinting. But even if he knew, he would probably not be angry, but would praise her. She really understands. Okay. But tonight, all of our regular booths are full, and there are only the two top-level booths, the Golden and the Supreme. Just from hearing the names, Zhao Xiaoyan could tell that they smelled of money. And when Zhao Xiaoyan heard the words top level, his eyes lit up. Which one is more expensive? The minimum charge for the Golden Throne is 88,888, and the minimum charge for the Supreme Throne is 188,888. Zhao Xiaoyan drew a breath of cold air. It really is expensive. Even Lu Xingting and Zhang Yuhan, who often go to the bar, were a little taken aback. They had been to the Seven Nights bar quite a lot, but they had never been to the Supreme or Golden Supreme VIP booths, and she had never even been to the Silver Supreme, which was one level below. The girls all looked at Zhao Xiaoyan, waiting for the show to begin. Lu Xingting even thought about what she would say to Zhao Xiaoyan later to scold her. But just then, the girls heard Zhao Xiaoyan say something very matter-of-fact. Let's go with the Supreme. I like the most expensive things. The waiter's eyebrows shot up when he heard this, and he immediately took a step to the side, bending his waist 30 degrees. This way, sir. Zhao Xiaoyan ignored the other girls and took the lead, following the waiter. Zhang Yuhan leaned over to Lu Xingting's ear and asked, "What's the deal with your classmate? He's so rich." Lu Xingting looked at Zhao Xiaoyan's back with contempt. He's just a loser, probably putting on airs. Don't say a word when you bring him back, I want to see what he'll do when he pays. Zhang Yuhan understood immediately and dragged Lu Xingting along. Seeing this, the other girls followed. 7 girls appearing in a bar at the same time was bound to be very attractive. Not to mention that there were also beautiful women like Lu Xingting and Zhang Yuhan among them, which attracted the direct attention of men along the way. But just as someone was about to strike up a conversation, they were stopped by their friends. Not understanding why their friends were stopping them, they saw their friends mouth the location of Zhao Xiaoyan at the front of the line, which immediately made them break out in a cold sweat. The people who could afford to spend in that booth were not the kind of people they could mess with. At this time, Zhao Xiaoyan had already placed one foot on the steps leading to the Supreme VIP booth. The Supreme VIP booth lived up to its name. It was directly in front of the stage and a meter higher than all the other booths. Sitting in the booth gave one a feeling of superiority. And after the waiter said something in his ear, the lights in the entire venue suddenly went up, and the lightboards and cheers resounded as Zhao Xiaoyan put one foot on the step leading to the Supreme VIP booth. For a moment, Zhao Xiaoyan actually felt like he wasn't stepping on the steps, but ascending the jade steps of the throne. Indeed, places like bars have a firm grasp on human nature. Lu Xingting and the others were obviously also sitting in the absolute center of the booth for the first time. They looked around excitedly like curious children, looking this way and that, and even felt the resilience of the sofa. Hello, sir. Would you like to order yourself, or would you like to go with the minimum charge? Once everyone was seated, the waiter politely asked Zhao Xiaoyan. This was a very considerate way to ask. If the customer orders themselves, it means according to the customer's own preferences, but you must not be below the minimum charge. Going with the minimum charge is simple, as the bar has a set minimum charge package that is simply brought out. Then let's arrange according to your minimum charge. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't know about this, so he simply followed the minimum charge package, and very consciously took out his bank card. In places like bars, you have to pay first. Although Zhao Xiaoyan had never been here before, he had heard about this rule. This is an unadorned bank card, and some of the places have even been worn and faded. But this did not affect the waiter's respect for it in the slightest, and he respectfully took it with both hands, then took out the POS machine from his pocket. At this time, Lu Xingting, Zhang Yuhan, and the others all looked over. They had long since heard from Lu Xingting that Zhao Xiaoyan was a loser, the 24K pure kind. Especially since Lu Xingting often heard Chen Yizhuan complain about her ex-boyfriend, she knew exactly how much money Zhao Xiaoyan had. Not to mention 188,888, even if it was a fraction, Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't pay it. In a place like a bar, if you go up to a booth and don't have the money to pay, the consequences are not pretty. Not to mention that Zhao Xiaoyan had reserved the most expensive booth in the entire place. The lights and the sign are all on for you, and you turn your head and you don't have the money, so just wait and walk out sideways. Chapter 11, A Sudden Surge in Favorability. At this, Lu Xingting's expression of schadenfreude was hidden in her eyes, and she had an expression of waiting for a good show. However, what they saw was the scene of the credit card being successfully swiped and the receipt being slowly printed out. Is this the end of the payment? Lu Xinting. Zhang Yuhan. The rest of the women. This time, the expense was charged to Lu Xinting, and Zhao Xiaoyan earned 940,000 yuan with tears in his eyes. Zhang Yuhan looked at Lu Xinting, her expression as if to ask, "Didn't you say he had no money?" Lu Xinting, on the other hand, looked at Zhao Xiaoyan with a face full of questions. "Zhao Xiaoyan, how come you have so much money? Yizhuan always said you didn't have much money." Zhao Xiaoyan looked at Lu Xinting and pretended to look disappointed, saying, "Because I want my woman to value me for who I am, not for my money, so I deliberately hid it. At first, I thought Chen Yizhuan was a good girl and was preparing to confess to her, but I never expected her to run off with someone else because of money." I get it, isn't this a plot often seen in TV dramas? The rich pretend to be difficult in order to test whether the girl is sincere in the pursuit of true love. I never expected the TV drama to mirror reality. Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability towards the host has increased by 20, current favorability 25. Zhao Xiaoyan's eyebrows raised. That's an increase of 20 favorability points? Money really is the best weapon against gold-digging women. What a good woman. However, the system's voice did not end there. Ding, target Zhang Yuhan's favorability towards the host has increased by 30, current favorability 30. Zhao Xiaoyan was even more delighted, feeling that there was a pleasant surprise. As for whether they would suspect that Zhao Xiaoyan was using a credit card, come on, a credit card that can spend 188,888 also requires strength, right? The bank won't give a brat like C such a high limit. Now Lu Xinting's look at Zhao Xiaoyan immediately changed. This is no loser, this is a proper rich kid. As for Chen Yizhuan, you only have yourself to blame for not being able to stand the test. You've lost a big watermelon for a tiny sesame seed. And after seeing Zhao Xiaoyan pay, Zhang Yuhan leaned her head into Lu Xinting's ear again. "Xinting, you just said you were just classmates with this Zhao Xiaoyan, right?" Lu Xinting suddenly felt a sense of crisis and asked, "What do you mean?" Zhang Yuhan looked at Zhao Xiaoyan. "It's nothing. Since you're just classmates, then I'm not really stealing your girlfriend." Seeing that the long-legged girl Zhang Yuhan had actually fallen for Zhao Xiaoyan, Lu Xinting was really a little jealous. There was nothing she could do, because the killing power of those long legs was just too strong. As a senior green tea gold-digging woman, how could she let go of a good catch like Zhao Xiaoyan, who was hiding so deep? Immediately, she launched a wave of standard output. "Xiaoyan, don't be sad for a woman like Chen Yizhuan. It's a good thing, too, because it'll show you that she's not a good match for you. In fact, if you just look around, you'll find that there are still a lot of good girls in the world." Lu Xinting's rank is really high. With the double buff of gold digging and green tea, she is indeed not someone ordinary can deal with. And Lu Xinting also changed the way she addressed Zhao Xiaoyan, from Zhao Xiaoyan to Xiaoyan. The transition was so smooth and natural that even Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. The tool person has delivered herself to the door, so how could Zhao Xiaoyan let her go? Yes, I don't know what happened at the beginning, but I was actually blinded by Chen Yizhuan's appearance. Someone like Lu, I think she's very nice. Lu Xinting immediately blushed. "Oh, why are you talking about my head? I'm just more understanding." Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability towards the host plus 15, current favorability 40. Zhao Xiaoyan, what a good tool person. Suddenly, there was another burst of lights in the bar, and the neon sign screamed. A group of sexy young ladies in crop tops and short skirts, holding a set of dragon suits and fruit plates, walked all the way from the bar, swaying seductively, and after parading through the bar, they walked up to the VIP booth where Zhao Xiaoyan and the others were sitting. The attention of everyone in the room was drawn to them, arousing the envy of many women and the jealousy of men. In no time at all, a dragon-shaped set, a small dragon-shaped set, and several fruit plates were placed on the table of the VIP booth. Seeing the long-famous dragon-shaped set, the eyes of all the girls in the booth lit up, and some of them couldn't help but take pictures. Lu Xinting also wanted to take a picture and post it on her moments, but after looking at Zhao Xiaoyan next to her, she resisted the urge to take out her phone. "Green tea, you must not show off in front of your target." Lu Xinting took the initiative to pour a glass of wine for Zhao Xiaoyan, then poured one for herself, raised her glass, and looked at Zhao Xiaoyan with a pair of flirtatious eyes. "Xiaoyan, let's clink glasses. You've spent a lot tonight. Just now, at the school gate, I was in a bad mood, so I spoke to you in that tone. You're not angry with me, are you?" I don't know if it was intentional or not, but at the moment they clinked glasses, Lu Xinting's finger lightly tickled Zhao Xiaoyan's between the fingers for a split second. "Zhao Xiaoyan, hey, why would I be angry with you? As long as you're happy, what's a little money? Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability towards the host +5, current favorability 45. Lu Xinting took a sip of wine, put down her glass, and asked casually, by the way, Xianyan, where are you working now? No, I don't want to look for one. Indeed, rich people like you don't really need to work for someone else. Lu Xinting looked into Zhao Xiaoyan's eyes and said. This is probing her own bottom. Zhao Xiaoyan climbed the social ladder, and indeed there is no need. Now work for me is just a way to pass the time, and I have enough money to last me a lifetime anyway. It's better to enjoy life than sit in an office. Upon hearing this, Lu Xinting's eyes brightened a little more. Come on Xianyan, let's have a drink. You've become rich, but don't forget us old classmates. Zhao Xiaoyan also raised his glass and touched it with hers. Don't worry, I won't forget anyone, but I will never forget you, Lu, you're such a beautiful woman. Lu Xinting pouted, you're still calling me Lu, which makes it clear that we're not close. No, we need to have another drink. The tea master's methods are superb, and he closed the distance with just a few words. And the way she pouted, Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. So what should I call you? Zhao Xiaoyan asked with a half smile. My good friends all call me Xinting. Okay, so she's gone from just being a classmate to being a good friend. Zhao Xiaoyan had to drink this glass of wine. The two of them were chatting away happily when suddenly the tall girl Zhang Yuhan, who had been sitting over there, stood up and sat down on the other side of Zhao Xiaoyan. Younger brother, my name is Zhang Yuhan, and my friends call me Yuhan. Let's have a drink too. Chapter 12, Sister's Hose. A beautiful woman approaching on her own initiative, of course Zhao Xiaoyan would not refuse. What's more, she is a girl bound to the system, and Zhao Xiaoyan has even less reason to refuse. Zhang Yuhan knows how to bring her advantages to the extreme. With a pair of long, slender legs accompanied by a pair of open-toed long boots, she is bound to attract attention. Zhang Yuhan's legs are really long. Even when sitting on the sofa in the booth, the angle where her knees bend is 45 upward, and the sofa is only halfway up to her calves. My name is Zhao Xiaoyan. I would love to drink with a beautiful woman like you. After saying that, he clinked glasses with Zhang Yuhan and took a sip of the wine in his glass. After a glass of wine, Zhao Xiaoyan felt a burning sensation in his stomach. It was his first time drinking this kind of wine, and he was really not used to it. Seeing this, the other girls also raised their glasses and approached Zhao Xiaoyan one after another. Although these girls had their own advantages, under the hallucinogenic lighting in the bar, they could all be considered beautiful enough. However, Zhao Xiaoyan did not hear any system prompts, and it was obvious that the system did not recognize the appearance of these girls. Since he couldn't earn any rewards, Zhao Xiaoyan didn't have much interest in these girls. He just politely sampled a little of each, but didn't even bother to remember their names. The atmosphere in the entire booth immediately became lively. The girls were clearly frequent clubbers, and each one of them could drink more than the last. Zhao Xiaoyan looked around at the group and felt that if he were to compete in terms of drinking capacity, he would lose to each of them. Zhang Yuhan has been glued to Zhao Xiaoyan's side since they sat down. She didn't go back to her previous seat, and even moved deliberately or unintentionally closer to Zhao Xiaoyan. Later, she directly occupied a good position next to Zhao Xiaoyan. Because Lu Xinting didn't introduce them earlier, Zhao Xiaoyan only now realized that Zhang Yuhan also went to Lingzhou University, but was a year younger than him. And her major was also very compatible with her height, fashion design and engineering, and she was also a part-time model. Seeing that Zhao Xiaoyan and Zhang Yuhan were having a good time chatting, Lu Xinting couldn't help but feel a little upset. If she had known, she would never have let this woman Zhang Yuhan come. She's stealing the limelight. Hurry up and grab a glass of wine and drag Zhao Xiaoyan over to talk and drink. Before long, Zhao Xiaoyan was a little overwhelmed. The two women around him seemed to be arguing, as if they were competing with each other. If you drink with her, you have to drink with me too. So, glass after glass, Zhao Xiaoyan felt that if he continued drinking like this, he would probably soon reach his limit. Zhao Xiaoyan knew very well that he had not come here tonight just to drink. He had come here to earn cash back. If he got drunk, how could he earn any cash back? I can't take it anymore. If I keep drinking, I'm going to collapse. Zhao Xiaoyan immediately raised the white flag. Zhang Yuhan, however, had no intention of letting him off the hook. She put her arm around Zhao Xiaoyan's and cooed, "Brother Xiaoyan, this is just the beginning." Lu Xinting looked at Zhang Yuhan, who was practically glued to Zhao Xiaoyan's body, and felt as if someone was trying to take away her new toy. She said immediately, Yuhan, if you want a drink, you can go drink with someone else. Xianyan said he can't drink anymore, so don't force him. Hey, why is Xin suddenly concerned about Xianyan? Have you fallen for him? Zhang Yuhan said in a strange voice, glancing at Lu Xianting. Didn't you just say that Xianyan is just an ordinary classmate of yours? Lu Xianting was taken aback by Zhang Yuhan's words and didn't know how to respond. So she simply raised her glass at Zhang Yuhan and said, You want a drink, right? I'll drink with you. The fish has already been set aside for her, so she can't let anyone else take it. If you want to drink, I'll drink with you. I've already decided to marry you, so I'm not afraid of you. Zhang Yuhan was not showing any weakness either. I'm going to marry you tonight. So, the two of them started drinking for some inexplicable reason. This move by the two girls directly made Zhao Xianyan dumbfounded. Damn, is this so exciting? But I like it. He was just worried that the wine was going down too slowly and there would be no reason to spend more money. Seeing the two girls competing to drink, he advised them nonchalantly while also consciously acting as a tool to pour the wine. Whenever he saw that one of the girls was out of wine, he immediately refilled it, with the main point being that if there was an empty glass for even a second, he would consider it his fault. Zhao Xianyan's actions caused the other women to laugh. Zhao Xianyan was not embarrassed and laughed, saying, I love a lively atmosphere, but I can't drink much, so I have to pour drinks for the ladies. Everyone, drink up. If we don't have enough, we can order more. The atmosphere once again became lively. Zhao Xianyan wasn't satisfied and waved his hand at the waiter standing by at the booth to order another great dragon. After saying this, he handed over the card. The waiter swiped the card, then muttered something into his earpiece, and then stood next to the booth, only looking more respectful. Zhao Xianyan sat back down, but found that everyone was looking at him, drinking. I said it before, there will definitely be enough alcohol tonight. Then looking at Lu Xinting and Zhang Yuhan, who were on the verge of a truce, Zhao Xianyan couldn't let them go, and directly pulled out a trump card. You two drink as much as you like, and I'll put up a big red envelope worth 60,000 yuan as a prize, and whoever wins gets to keep it. Lu Xinting didn't want to drink anymore, because it was so easy to get drunk on quick wine. A green tea beauty like her had to always protect her image. No beautiful woman could look pretty after getting drunk. But as soon as Zhang Yuhan heard that there was a prize, and it was a whole 60,000 yuan, her fighting spirit was immediately at full capacity, and she kept provoking Lu Xinting. Lu Xinting was so provoked that she was not willing to concede defeat. She picked up her glass and started drinking again. 60,000 yuan was enough for her to buy that limited edition bag she had been eyeing for a long time. Zhao Xianyan was even happier watching from the side. As a result, the entire booth became lively again, even more so than before. However, Zhao Xianyan was not immune. The other girls saw that Zhao Xianyan had escaped the clutches of the two women Lu and Zhang, and they all sought her out. It was the top table again, and the waitresses were dressed as the Chinese dragon. Even the waitresses who brought the drinks were dressed as the Chinese dragon, and the lucky numbers were all 60,000. At this time, Zhao Xianyan was comparable to the flesh of the monk in the eyes of the women. Even two bold women took advantage of the toast and leaned half their bodies on Zhao Xianyan, allowing Zhao Xianyan to complete a passive embrace from both sides. Although these women did not have a face value of 80, they were considered pretty by ordinary people. Faced with the hospitality of these beautiful women, Zhao Xianyan had no choice but to accept. If you don't take advantage of a bargain, you're a bastard. 20 minutes later. Lu Xinting and Zhang Yuhan's game ended when Lu Xinting ran to the toilet to throw up. Brother Xianyan, everyone won. Chapter 13, No Longer Sisters. Although Zhang Yuhan won, she was slurring her words and her eyes were a little unfocused, so it was clear that she was also close to her limit. Without saying a word, Zhao Xianyan took out his phone and opened the VX QR code. Zhang Xueme, come on, add VX and I'll give you the colorful hair. With the cashback killer app, Zhao Xianyan was acting like a local tyrant. As I said earlier, whoever wins will get a prize. A man must keep his word. No matter who wins, Zhao Xianyan will get the money. Zhang Yuhan's eyes lit up. A 60,000 yuan prize. Isn't this the perfect example of a stupid rich local tyrant? So what's there to be polite about? She took out her phone and scanned the QR code, saying affectionately, Brother Xianyan, my family calls me Hanin, you can call me that too. Well, after knowing each other for less than 2 hours, he has been promoted from a stranger to family. Duanli is not only as good looking as Lu Xinting, but also on a par with her. When the other girls saw this, they quickly took out their phones and added Zhao Xiaoyan's VX. Nonsense, this Zhao Xiaoyan is definitely a big shot, and if you don't add a big shot, would you add a loser? Zhao Xiaoyan didn't care about the others, and when he saw that Zhang Yuhan had finished scanning, he took back his phone. The next second, he saw a friend with the VX number long-legged demon add an application, and even the profile picture was a photo of a pair of long legs. After clicking on the profile picture, Zhao Xiaoyan was able to determine that it was Zhang Yuhan's own leg photo that was too damn long. Here, Zhang Yuhan had just passed the application, and over there, Zhao Xiaoyan directly initiated a transfer, entered a string of numbers and sent it. Zhang Yuhan was even holding the phone directly, waiting for the red envelope. But when she looked at the transfer amount, Zhang Yiting first froze, and then let out an excited scream, attracting the attention of everyone around her, who all leaned over to look at her phone. Then everyone else went dumb too. 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. A transfer of exactly 600,000. Didn't you just say 60,000? How did it become 600,000 now? Zhang Yuhan's hands trembled. After clicking to receive the money, she indeed saw a prompt that 600,000 had been credited. Zhang Yuhan picked up her phone and pointed to the transfer record on it, saying, "Xiaoyan, didn't you just say 60,000? Why did you transfer 600,000 to me?" Zhao Xiaoyan looked at it and indeed saw 600,000. But it didn't matter, he had earned more anyway. So Zhao Xiaoyan said in a pretentious manner, "Oh, maybe I shook my hand a little and pressed an extra zero." As soon as Zhang Yuhan heard that the other party had transferred the money by mistake, she immediately said, "Brother Xiaoyan, I'll transfer it back to you right now." Zhao Xiaoyan really pressed her phone with no hesitation and said, "If I pressed an extra zero, so be it, it's all the same, it doesn't matter. Since I gave it to you, you can just keep it." Ding, target Zhang Yiting's favorability plus 30, current favorability 60. Zhao Xiaoyan here had just received a system prompt. The next second, he saw Zhang Yuhan throw herself at him and give him a series of wild kisses on the face. Perhaps feeling that this was not enough to show her sincerity, in the end Zhang Yuhan even kissed Zhao Xiaoyan directly on the mouth. Then, Zhao Xiaoyan felt a fleshy object pry open his teeth and drill in. Holy shit! Zhao Xiaoyan was dumbfounded. This is the French kiss, isn't it? Zhao Xiaoyan would never refuse a piece of fat that comes knocking on his door. After a brief moment of shock, Zhao Xiaoyan didn't bother to be polite and directly embraced Zhang Yiting's barely their waist. Zhang Yihan is a model, and her figure is really something. Add to that her height of over 180 centimeters, and she is definitely a clothes rack. However, Zhao Xiaoyan is a very pure person, so pure that he has never even had a first kiss. Although he had been with Chen Yizhuan for 3 years, their intimacy was limited to holding hands, and their relationship was close to platonic love. Zhao Xiaoyan sometimes wondered if he even had a girlfriend. 2 minutes later, Zhang Yuhan separated her lips from Zhao Xiaoyan's and gently rubbed her mouth, which had become a little numb from Zhao Xiaoyan's stubble, with the same slender fingers. However, her expression suddenly became nervous. The other person is a local tyrant. What if the other person doesn't like it, or even thinks I'm too casual, which would greatly reduce my impression? I'd lose more than I'd gain. Just as she was about to explain to Zhao Xiaoyan that she kissed him out of sudden excitement and hoped he wouldn't be angry. But before she could say anything, she saw Zhao Xiaoyan putting on a sad face and speaking first. "This is my first kiss." Zhang Yiting's heart immediately felt lighter, and she smiled and said to Zhao Xiaoyan, "Don't worry, I will be responsible for you." Ding, target Zhang Yuhan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 70. Zhao Xiaoyan was shocked, is this favorability already 70? This woman is practically a mascot sent to me. Zhang Yuhan saw Zhao Xiaoyan staring at her, pouting and looking shy. "Zhao Xiaoyan, I think it's adorable." Although the 600,000 yuan red envelope had an extra zero because Zhao Xiaoyan's hand trembled, Zhang Yuhan's 30 times the usual favorability score brought Zhao Xiaoyan a rebate of 18 million yuan, which doubled Zhao Xiaoyan's assets. The 4 girls, whose names Zhao Xiaoyan did not know, looked at the scene that had just happened, all looking at Zhang Yiting with envy and jealousy, and then also looking at Zhao Xiaoyan with longing eyes, just waiting to shout, "Local tyrant, we want red envelopes too, even if we don't have a shaking hand." But Zhao Xiaoyan didn't even look at them. A woman who doesn't get a rebate isn't even worthy of being a tool. Lu Xinting, who had staggered back from the toilet, sat down right in front of this scene and also had an expression of unwillingness. Originally, all of this should have been hers, but it was precisely Zhang Yuhan, whom she had summoned herself, who unexpectedly came from behind and not only took away her limelight, but also actually caused her to miss out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. She even took the initiative to kiss him, which meant that she had to compete with her for Zhao Xiaoyan, the big fat fish. Yuck, how shameless. We are no longer sisters. Lu Xinting is now even more certain that Zhao Xiaoyan is definitely a rich second generation, no, a super rich second generation. 600,000 yuan is a bet, and he still acts like it's no big deal. This is a really shocking gesture. What is the purpose of raising fish? Isn't it to choose the best? I don't think any of the fish in my pond are as generous as Zhao Xiaoyan. If I can get Zhao Xiaoyan, then what's the point of keeping the pond? I might as well just blow it up. Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability plus 45, current favorability 70. Zhao Xiaoyan, holy shit, another one with favorability over 70. Today is a bumper harvest. Chapter 14. The main point is to keep things even. Zhao Xiaoyan subconsciously looked at Lu Xinting. He saw that the other party was full of resentment, looking at him like a wife who had been abandoned by her husband. When she saw me looking over, those seductive fox eyes were filled with tears, whether from drinking too much or something else, which made them even more enticing. Before coming to the bar, she would never have imagined that the loser who had just been dumped by his girlfriend the day before, and whom she had once regarded as worthless, would have such a polar reversal overnight and make a triumphant return. Not only had he changed from being a penniless loser, he was now also a spendthrift. He really is rich, very rich. Just casually playing a drinking game, he raised his hand and gave a 600,000 yuan red envelope. What kind of strength is this? Seeing Zhang Yuhan, who was glued to Zhao Xiaoyan, Lu Xinting became more and more uncomfortable as she watched, cursing in her heart. Vixen! Seeing Zhao Xiaoyan's gaze turn to her, Lu Xinting suddenly felt aggrieved. Earlier, she had been courting him, and when she found out that he was going to the bar, she insisted on coming along. But now he was making out with another woman and giving her such a big red envelope. When she thought about it, for some reason, Lu Xinting suddenly felt like crying. Her nose started to sting, and tears actually started to flow down her face. This made Zhao Xiaoyan panic, because ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability 20, current favorability 50. Lu Xinting's good impression dropped at the speed of light as soon as she started crying, even though she had just gone up and her impression had not yet warmed up. Zhao Xiaoyan was shocked and immediately walked up to Lu Xinting, pretending to be concerned, and said, "Xinting, what's wrong? If someone has bullied you, tell me, and I'll help you get even with them. It's you who has bullied me, so go fix yourself right now." As Lu Xinting spoke, she cried even more sadly. It was as if she had just fallen for a toy and someone had snatched it away from her. Zhao Xiaoyan also reacted, and realized that Lu Xinting was jealous. This is not to say that she is jealous of herself. After all, the favorability is now 50, and it is estimated that it is not even considered favorable. To be precise, she is jealous of her best friend Zhang Yuhan. After all, women are also good at face sometimes, and the more beautiful the woman, the better. Zhao Xiaoyan naturally could not favor one over the other. After all, Lu Xinting was also his tool. Without saying a word, he directly sent a large red envelope of 600,000 yuan. As a godly magnate, his main focus is to treat everyone equally. Sure enough, after receiving the red envelope, Lu Xinting finally stopped crying and smiled. Ding, target Lu Xinting's favorability plus 20, current favorability 70. Now that the matter was settled, everyone continued to play music and dance. The next second, the dynamic music once again filled the entire bar, and everyone once again fell into the drunken, materialistic madness. Then an hour later, Zhao Xiaoyan regrettably discovered that Lu Xinting and Zhang Yuhan had both fallen drunk on the sofa. Returning Zhao Xiaoyan also lost interest in staying. The original idea of continuing to communicate with the long-legged beauty Zhang Yuhan also died in the womb. Not to mention, both money trees are drunk, who is he going to find to return the cash to? When the others saw that the Golden Master was leaving, they all stood up. Fortunately, they were still sober, and they helped the two who had already drunk and staggered to follow Zhao Xiaoyan. After calling 2 taxis and handing over the 2 drunk targets to his companions, Zhao Xiaoyan returned to the rental house alone. After taking a shower, Zhao Xiaoyan lay on the bed tossing and turning but could not sleep a little. His mind kept replaying the events of the day. He recalled the dance that the cold and aloof female teacher Sun Yalan had danced for him, and thought about the system locked Lu Xinting and Zhang Yuhan, as well as the funds lying in his bank account, which were making great strides towards the 9-digit mark. He felt like he was dreaming, as he had gone from a pure loser to a quasi-billionaire overnight. Before yesterday, I was still heartbroken and drunk over Chanijuan. And now, I already have 3 amazing women in my life. Especially Lu Xinting, the gold-digging green tea girl, whose favorability rating towards me has already reached 80 points. Even Zhang Yuhan, the leggy model I just met tonight, has a favorability rating of 70 points. Now Zhao Xiaonian is very curious about what will happen when the rating breaks through 100 points. The next day, it was almost noon before Zhao Xiaonian woke up. He took the phone by the pillow, which was set to silent mode, and saw a dozen unread VX. Lu Xinting, Xiaonian, thank you for last night, I had a lot of fun. Lu Xinting, are you awake? Lu Xinting, I heard that a steak restaurant opened on the commercial street across from the school, why don't we go try it? Lu Xinting, did I wake you up? You go back to sleep then. Lu Xinting, remember to contact me when you wake up. I'll be waiting for your news. Seeing the message from Lu Xinting, Zhao Xiaonian suddenly felt amused. This Lu Xinting really lives up to her reputation as a gold-digging green tea drinker. She never gave a damn about him before yesterday, and even looked down on most of the boys in his class. But who would have thought that once she found out he was rich, she would not only initiate a VX exchange with him, but also invite him out to dinner? Zhao Xiaonian thought about it for a moment and replied, I just woke up, I drank a bit too much yesterday. I won't go today, I'll treat you to a big meal some other time. Unexpectedly, the other person replied immediately, okay. You should drink less in the future, too much is not good for your health. Green tea is green tea, tea art is very relaxing. Zhao Xiaonian didn't reply again, and clicked on the remaining unread messages, which were from Zhang Yuhan. Zhang Yuhan, Xiaonian, I'm so happy to know you. Zhang Yuhan, your red envelope is really too big, I'm a little afraid to spend it. Zhang Yuhan, Xiaonian, why don't I treat you to dinner? Zhang Yuhan, Xiaonian, your first kiss was taken by someone else, they will be responsible for you. Zhang Yuhan, I'll tell you, in fact, last night was also someone else's first kiss. Zhao Xiaonian just laughed, you were so skillful last night, saying it was your first kiss, you're fooling a child. Of course, since he had replied to Lu Xinting, Zhao Xiaonian naturally couldn't be partial. Zhao Xiaonian, here you go, you can spend it all. You were really sweet last night. A reply came back in seconds, brother Xiaonian, you're so bad. It's so embarrassing. Zhao Xiaonian didn't reply again. Get up. Wash up. Get dressed. And go out. Originally, Zhao Xiaonian was going to continue looking for a job, but with the system, Zhao Xiaonian no longer felt the need to work. He was already a quasi-billionaire, so what was the point of working? He would never work for someone else again. So he picked up the phone and called his roommate Guo Liang. Hello, Xiaonian. Liangzi, are you in the dormitory? Yes, and so is Viagra. Okay, I'm going back to the dormitory now, wait for me. Chapter 15, Two People Who Shouldn't Have Appeared. 10 minutes later, Zhao Xiaonian returned to the dormitory after a week's absence. He wasn't sure if it was an illusion, but the moment he stepped into the dormitory, Zhao Xiaonian actually felt like he had been reborn. The dormitory door was open, and Guo Liang and Li Liwei were lying on the bed playing video games. The other roommate, Zhang Haolong, was not there. He was from Lingzhou and had been sent by his family early to his family's company to officially begin taking over his father's mantle in life. Guo Liang and Li Liwei, like Zhao Xiaonian, had not found a job and were enjoying their last few days of university. Seeing Zhao Xiaonian return to the dormitory, Guo Liang simply hung up, which made Li Liwei swear angrily, you piece of shit, you just ran away with 0-10, and now I'm going to have to kneel again in the qualifying round. Zhao Xiaonian opened WeChat and transferred some money to Guo Liang and Li Liwei, and also to Zhang Haolong. This money was owed when I was with Chen Yijuan. I wanted to pay it back yesterday, but after being interrupted by the events that followed, I forgot about it. As soon as Guo Liang saw the money come back, he asked, Xiaonian, there's no rush to pay this back, let's talk about it when we have the money. Li Liwei also agreed. Don't worry, I still have money, you can just take it. For this group of people in the dormitory, Zhao Xiaonian is still very glad that he got to know them, and they get along like real brothers. The debt was paid, but the friendship did not end there. Guo Liang looked at Zhao Xiaonian and suddenly patted him on the shoulder. Xiaonian, we have heard about you in Chen Yijuan. You have to be strong. That kind of woman, if she leaves, she leaves. We have to move on with our lives. Li Liwei also stopped playing games and chimed in, yes, there are plenty of other women out there. If this one doesn't work out, just keep looking. A man can't let a girl bring him down. If you fall for one woman, get up and find another. Zhao Xiaoyan was amused by the two of them, but his heart was still warmed. Do I look like I'm in trouble? It's just a woman, I don't even care. Not wanting to talk about Chen Yijuan anymore, Zhao Xiaoyan looked at the two of them and said, "Today at noon, let's go to the Hunanese restaurant, my treat." Wow, the iron cock is actually taking the initiative to pluck its feathers, which is rare. See if I don't eat you out of house and home at noon. Guo Liang gritted his teeth, looking like he was going to eat the big spender. This was the reason why Zhao Xiaoyan returned to the dormitory, to pay back the money and treat them to a meal. Zhao Xiaoyan had no intention of telling the two about having money for the time being, but he would remember their kindness. If there was a chance, Zhao Xiaoyan would find a way to repay them, so that they would not have been wasted as brothers. It is said that a university can support the people within a 10-kilometer radius. Although this is a bit of an exaggeration, it does reflect the driving effect a university has on the local economy. At noon, the commercial street in front of the main entrance of Lingzhou University. The Hunanese restaurant is a very well-known restaurant on this street, specializing in Hunanese cuisine. It is very popular with students because the food is authentic and delicious, and the prices are reasonable. The restaurant is run by a middle-aged couple, the owner is in charge of the kitchen, the wife is in charge of the lobby, and there are 3 waitresses. The Hunanese restaurant is not big, with only 7 or 8 tables and 4 private rooms. Guo Liang browses through the menu in his hands, discussing it with Li Liwei from time to time, before writing down the order in the order book. Zhao Xiaoyan is busy washing dishes and cutlery for everyone else. Since not too many people came for lunch, the dishes were quickly served. Guo Liang was good at creating a good atmosphere. He carried a bottle of wine and poured it for everyone at the table, then raised his glass and said to Zhao Xiaoyan, "Come, let's toast to our benefactor, Lord Zhao." The 3 glasses clinked together, and they all drank from their glasses in one gulp. Then they put down their bowls and chopsticks and began to eat like there was no tomorrow. While eating, Li Liwei, whose line of sight was directed towards the door, pointed towards the door with his eyes and whispered, "Our student president is here." Everyone looked back. Sure enough, they saw student president Zhou Liang walk into the Hunanese restaurant, accompanied by a beautiful woman in hot pants. Zhou Liang was accompanied by He Fei from the dance department. How did they end up together? He Fei is from the dance department of Lingzhou University. She has excellent dance talent and is obsessed with dance. Because He Fei dances well, she is always invited to perform at school events and parties. I heard that she has participated in many competitions, both large and small, and has performed well, so she is considered the face of the dance department. Naturally, such a girl is very popular. Although I heard that He Fei has many suitors, she rarely spends time alone with a guy. But today, He Fei suddenly walked with Zhou Liang, which is very curious. From the moment He Fei walked into the restaurant, she attracted the attention of many people in the restaurant, especially the boys. Apart from looking at her face, all pairs of eyes were directed towards her legs. There was no way around it, as long as you weren't blind, it was hard to ignore those legs. Her long, slender legs, exposed beneath a pair of hot pants, were particularly white. Because of her dance training, there wasn't an ounce of cellulite to be seen on her legs. Just for those legs alone, He Fei would be more than enough to be a leg model. Seeing these legs, Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't help but think of Zhang Yuhan's incredibly long legs and compare them in his mind. Well, Zhang Yuhan still wins. It's really her incredibly long legs. Not far away, Zhou Liang and his friends found an empty seat, and again attentively used paper towels to help wipe the tables and chairs that weren't dirty, and again volunteered to help wash the dishes. It's just like the kind of man who, before courting a woman, spares no effort to be attentive. Zhao Xiaoyan and the others glanced at them a few times, then returned their attention to the dry rice. But after 10 minutes, another girl with a pretty face stormed in from outside, walked straight to Zhou Liang and their table, and with a pale face, she grabbed the glass of coconut milk in front of He Fei without saying a word and splashed it in He Fei's face. Ah! This sudden turn of events scared He Fei and she screamed. It also successfully attracted the attention of everyone. Fortunately, it was coconut milk in the cup. If it had been boiling water, the consequences would have been unimaginable. What are you doing? After a brief moment of shock, Zhou Liang stood up, pushed the girl away, walked quickly to He Fei's side, took out a tissue and was about to wipe the coconut milk off the other person. However, He Fei took the tissue first and wiped it herself. When they saw the girl storming in, Zhao Xiaoyan and the others exchanged glances. Because they all knew the woman Ma Qing, the girlfriend of President Zhou Liang Zhou. Her boyfriend was eating with a beautiful woman, and her girlfriend stormed in angrily. Wasn't this the scene of an infidelity? Unfortunately, this was in a restaurant. If it were in a hotel, it would be pretty explosive. Chapter 16, The Crumbling Huffy. Zhou Liang, you actually pushed me? You actually pushed me for such a stinking woman? Ma Qing yelled, and pounded on Zhou Liang's back. Unable to vent her anger, Ma Qing picked up a dish on the table and pretended to throw it at Huffei. It wouldn't be a problem if the coconut milk splashed on her body, but if the greasy dish splashed on her body, it would be a mess. Fortunately, Zhou Liang had quick eyes and hands, and he blocked it with his hand, so it didn't splash on Yifei, who had already been scared silly, but it all splashed on Zhou Liang. Suddenly, the position of the white t-shirt on the chest was a dark mass, and it was dripping soupsasisi. You're fucking crazy. Zhou Liang was also furious, and slapped Ma Qing's face. The slap was loud and clear, and the whole restaurant could hear it. Ma Qing was Zhou Liang's second girlfriend from college, a sophomore in the dance department. Zhou Liang met her at a friend's party his sophomore year, and they fell in love at first sight. He then decisively kicked his girlfriend into the Atlantic Ocean and hooked up with Ma Qing. Ma Qing was still considered a beauty in terms of appearance, after all, not many ugly people studied dance. However, compared to the current Yifei, there was a bit of a gap. If looks aren't enough, then a good figure will do. Thanks to years of practice, Ma Qing's figure is truly impressive. It is said that Ma Qing used a straight one-word horse stance to defeat Zhou Liang. Ma Qing's behavior was not good either, as she knew Zhou Liang had a girlfriend and still went for him. Zhou Liang was a tall guy at 1.8 meters, but his looks were only so-so. Ma Qing's motives were a bit impure when she got together with Zhou Liang. Fortunately, Zhou Liang's family is wealthy and can satisfy Ma Qing's needs. Now, it is obvious that the scene from that year is being replayed, but Ma Qing from that year has become the former. Zhao Xiaoyan and the others quietly waited to eat melons. Ma Qing was slapped in public, her hair became a bit messy, and her actions at that time, which did not care about her image, made her look exactly like a wife who had been abandoned by her husband. How dare you slap me? Zhou Liang, you actually hit me for this bitch. Zhou Liang, if you want to dump me, forget it. Ma Qing pointed the finger at Yifei, who was still sitting there. Yifei, haven't you always considered yourself to be high and mighty? Why do you have to steal someone else's boyfriend? You shameless slut, you actually became the other woman. I thought you Yifei were pure, but it turns out you're also shameless. Bah, you're just a slut, a whore. After all, it's all about money, isn't it? Only a fool like Zhou Liang would fall for it, and he handed over 100,000 yuan to you before even having sex with you. You're just a cheap whore. Ma Qing's mother was very loud and it was hard to hear. Everyone could hear what she was saying, and they all looked at Yifei. At this time, Yifei lowered her head, curled up, and buried her entire face in her arms, silently enduring Ma Qing's abuse. At this time, the proprietress also walked over. Three of you, why don't you three go outside and talk, don't affect my business. Zhou Liang nodded, transferred the money to the proprietress on his phone, and then shouted at Ma Qing, have you made enough noise? Get out and talk. Fine, I'll go out. I'm not a prostitute, so what's there to be afraid of? With that, she took the lead and walked out. Zhou Liang then bent down and gently patted Yifei. Fei, let's get out of here first. Don't worry, I'll take care of Ma Qing. I'll do what I promised you. Yifei lifted her head, her face already covered in tears. Without saying a word, she walked away. At this moment, Zhao Xianyan heard the system's voice for the third time today. Potential counterattack target found. Target, Yifei. Height, 167. Face value, 88. Body type, 90. Purity, 100 in place. Favorability, 0. Ding, the target's favorability towards the host is below 80, meeting the binding conditions. Bind or not. Zhao Xiaoyan. When Zhao Xiaoyan and the others left their hometown Hunanese restaurant, there was no sign of Zhou Liang and the other two. Guo Liang and Li Liwei were going to an internet cafe to play games, and Zhao Xiaoyan walked to the dormitory alone with nothing to do. There are two ways to get back to the dormitory from school. Zhao Xiaoyan did not take the main road, but followed the tree-lined path back. Although it was only the end of September, the temperature in Lingzhou reached 30 at noon. The path was shaded by trees, so it was not that hot. However, as he walked, Zhao Xiaoyan vaguely heard the noise of men and women arguing. As he got closer, he saw three figures in the distance. It was the three of them, Zhou Liang and the others, whom he had met at the Hunanese restaurant back home. Since the three were in the exact path Zhao Xiaoyan had to take, in order to avoid any awkwardness, Zhao Xiaoyan simply stopped at the corner and planned to board in a while. If they still hadn't left after a while, then he would have to return the same way he came and take the main road. Zhao Xiaoyan listened with his ears erect for a long time, but because there was some distance between them, he couldn't hear what they were saying. Then after a while, He Fei walked over, her face full of tears, and passed Zhao Xiaoyan. Zhou Liang was presumably tied up with Ma Qing and did not follow. Zhao Xiaoyan hesitated for a moment, but then, as if possessed, followed He Fei. After walking for a few dozen meters, He Fei suddenly turned around. Unprepared, Zhao Xiaoyan grabbed a flower by the roadside and pretended to be observing it. Unfortunately, his movements were clumsy and sloppy. The two were separated by a distance of a few meters. "Why are you following me?" He Fei asked, looking at Zhao Xiaoyan. "I'm not following you, I'm going back to the dormitory." Zhao Xiaoyan felt a little guilty. "You were there at the Hunan restaurant, and you were eavesdropping on our conversation just now. What do you want? Do you like snooping on other people's gossip that much? Why is everyone like this? What did I, He Fei, do wrong? Why are you all treating me like this?" As she spoke, He Fei's tears, which had stopped, welled up again. But she was like a stubborn child, letting the tears fall in lines on her already wet front, her eyes full of despair and sadness. Zhao Xiaoyan understood the first half of the sentence, and the second half felt more like He Fei venting her grievances. Thinking about what Ma Qing said in the restaurant, Zhao Xiaoyan asked, "Why did you do it?" "Zhou Liang, don't you know he has a girlfriend?" "Yes, I know. But he's rich, and he's willing to give me money. He gave me 100,000 yuan as a deposit without doing anything, and he promised me that the rest of the money would be given to me soon. I like money. As long as I have money, I don't care about any bullshit morality, courtesy, integrity, or shame. Do you also think I'm cheap?" "That's right, I'm cheap. Don't even mention Zhou Liang, even if it's you, or just anyone. If you give me 1 million yuan right now, I'll be his for a year, and I'll do whatever he wants, whenever he wants." Chapter 17, A Fluctuating Favorability Rating. Zhao Xiaoyan's words seemed to sting He Fei. She had never said a word before, but at this moment she finally exploded, almost hysterically. Zhao Xiaoyan looked at He Fei and asked, stepping closer, "You don't love money, do you? You should need money right now, right? What's the difference?" "It's all about money," He Fei said with a self-deprecating smile. "I can give it to you," Zhao Xiaoyan said after a moment's thought. "What?" "Zhao Xiaoyan, I said, I can give you money." "You? How much can you give me? 1,000, or 2,000? Or 10,000? He Fei sized up Zhao Xiaoyan. His faded jeans and black, unbranded t-shirt made it clear that he came from an ordinary family. The money she needed was not something an ordinary family could come up with. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't answer how much he would give, but impatiently asked, "Just tell me, how much do you want?" "At least 1 million. He Fei saw that Zhao Xiaoyan was actually still pursuing the matter, so he simply threw out a number. "Okay." Zhao Xiaoyan took out his phone, opened online banking, and asked, "Give me your bank card number, I'll transfer it to you now." He Fei saw that Zhao Xiaoyan was serious, and he seemed very confident, so he reported his own bank card number. While He Fei was reporting it, Zhao Xiaoyan was entering it, and then in the amount, he filled in 1 million. Before clicking to confirm, Zhao Xiaoyan looked up at He Fei and silently recited in his heart. "Target locked. Ding, target He Fei successfully bound. Ding, target He Fei's favorability towards the host is 0, and cashback will not be triggered. Zhao Xiaoyan, it's over, I forgot about this, I've lost a lot of money." Men, sometimes in order to save face, they have to swallow their pride even if it means losing their teeth. It's just that Zhao Xiaoyan's broken tooth is very valuable, worth 1 million. Fortunately, there are still 100 million points in the account, so the 1 million is still within the range of affordability. Zhao Xiaoyan bites his back molar and presses the OK button, then looks at He Fei and says, "I transferred it over, but there's probably a slight delay on the bank's end, so it'll take a few minutes." Just then, the text message sound on He Fei's phone goes off. He Fei opened her phone, clicked on the message, and her eyes grew wide. She then switched to the bank app and counted the amount of money that had been credited to her account several times in a row. 1 million.00. As she looked at the amount, He Fei's tears fell once again. She crouched down and hugged her knees as she let out a loud cry. Unlike the crying she had done a few minutes ago, This time there was a sense of relief in her sobs. Zhao Xiaoyan did not leave, either, and stood 3 or 4 meters away from her, watching her cry. Thinking about the fact that he had lost $1 million for no reason, Zhao Xiaoyan also wanted to cry. If this money had been spent by Lu Xinting or Zhang Yateng, another 100 million yuan would have been credited to the account. After calculating, Zhao Xiaoyan felt that he had suffered a huge loss. Hefei cried for a full 7 or 8 minutes before sobbing and stopping. Hefei got up, wiped the tears from her face, and said in a tone that seemed to accept her fate, "I said it before, 1 million a year. You paid 1 million, and for 1 year from now, I will be yours. Let's go to the hotel now, I'll give it to you now." Zhao Xiaoyan was just about to think of something when he heard a prompt from the system. Ding, target Hefei's favorability 20, current favorability 20. Zhao Xiaoyan was suddenly speechless. I just gave you 1 million, and you lowered my favorability by 20. Are you here to repay me with ingratitude? So Zhao Xiaoyan made up his mind, and his tone immediately changed. He looked at Hefei and nodded, "Okay, let's go." He didn't want to be seen by anyone from the university, as it would cause a bad public opinion. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't take Hefei to a cheap hotel near Lingde University, but instead took a taxi directly to the nearest 4-star Jinyu hotel. After getting out of the car, Hefei looked at the entrance of the Jinyu hotel for a few seconds, and then. Ding, target Hefei's favorability 20, current favorability 40. Zhao Xiaoyan almost couldn't resist kicking Hefei. Damn it, if I ever act like a good guy again, I'll. Forget it. A man can't swear blindly. Hefei didn't say a word the whole way, and she didn't ask where they were going or what they were doing. She just let Zhao Xiaoyan take her to the hotel and pay for the room. Although it was only a 4-star hotel, the overall interior decoration was quite high-end. This was Zhao Xiaoyan's first time staying in a hotel with stars, so it was a breakthrough. Check in and pay the deposit. Soon Zhao Xiaoyan got the room card. After entering the room on the 8th floor, the moment Zhao Xiaoyan closed the door, he could clearly see that Hefei, who had been composed the whole way, involuntarily trembled. Although it was very slight, Zhao Xiaoyan clearly caught it. You go take a shower first, and then change your clothes. Star-rated hotels like this should have bathrobes. Zhao Xiaoyan pointed to the damp patch on the front of Hefei's shirt and said. That's from the coconut milk Ma Qing poured on him at noon. But this action was interpreted differently in Hefei's eyes. Hefei glanced at Zhao Xiaoyan again. Ding, target Hefei's favorability 10, current favorability 50. Zhao Xiaoyan, damn, I'll hold back. Hefei bit her lip, didn't say a word, took a deep breath, and with a look of generous sacrifice, walked into the bathroom. Seeing how Hefei looked, Zhao Xiaoyan let out a deep breath. Don't get angry, don't get angry. If you get angry and hurt your body, no one will take care of you. While Hefei was in the bathroom, Zhao Xiaoyan used the room's phone to call the front desk. After giving a few instructions, he hung up. 10 minutes later, the sound of running water in the bathroom stopped, followed by a light opening of the door. Zhao Xiaoyan looked over subconsciously, and then his whole body froze. In front of the bathroom door, Hefei had already finished her shower, her hair still damp and falling about her. She was wearing the white bathrobe from the hotel, which came just below her knees. Zhao Xiaoyan looked at Hefei, who was standing facing him, with her delicate face, wet long hair, and her calves, which had been tightened through years of dancing. Zhao Xiaoyan felt that at that moment, Hefei had the charm of a lotus flower emerging from the water. Hefei's heart was beating fast as Zhao Xiaoyan looked at her. This was the first time she had been alone in a room with a man she had only known for less than an hour and didn't even know his name. This time, Hefei felt ashamed. But it was this man in front of her who had paid millions. You looked at Zhao Xiaoyan, whose eyes were filled with lust. Hefei just wanted to speak when she saw Zhao Xiaoyan turn around and turn his back on her. You should change your clothes first. I heard that the hotel's bathrobes are not clean. Chapter 18, The Whole Story. By the way, I heard online that the hotel bathrobes are not very clean. You should put on your underwear before putting on the bathrobe, that way it'll be cleaner. He doesn't want me? But just now, she clearly saw the impulse and desire in Zhao Xiaoyan's eyes. Hefei had plucked up the courage once, she had used up all her courage, revealing herself without reservation, but Zhao Xiaoyan chose to turn away. She no longer had the courage to continue being honest, and hurriedly rushed into the bathroom. As she listened to the rustling sound of clothes being changed, the system also spoke. Ding, target Hefei's favorability plus 40, current favorability 10. Zhao Xiaoyan was already unmoved. 5 minutes later, He Fei, blushing, sat opposite Zhao Xiaoyan in a white bathrobe. The collar of the bathrobe was pulled tightly closed, leaving no hint of her body exposed, as if she was afraid that Zhao Xiaoyan would see her. Only her two slender legs were visible outside the bathrobe. Zhao Xiaoyan suddenly felt like laughing. Just now, he didn't know who was being so honest, but now she was hiding. He Fei lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Zhao Xiaoyan. After all, she had just been seen naked by this man. The atmosphere in the room was strange. In the silence, there was an indescribable charm and ambiguity. "So, can I ask you a question?" Zhao Xiaoyan broke the silence. He Fei nodded in response. "Zhao Xiaoyan, why do you need money so badly?" It was obvious that He Fei was not the kind of gold-digging woman. Even gold-digging women like Lu Xinting would at most use TR to make men spend money on them and buy them all sorts of things. But she would never put a price tag on her body. He Fei gave him the impression that she was more like trading. "You pay, I sell myself." He clearly remembers that when he transferred 1 million to her, she said you paid 1 million. Because she majored in Chinese literature, Zhao Xiaoyan could hear the difference. She said paid, not gave. The difference in meaning is indeed very different. Treat the disease. He Fei spat out 2 words. "Zhao Xiaoyan, are you sick?" "He Fei, it's not me, it's my brother. He has secondary immunodeficiency and needs special treatment and specialized medication." On hearing the word brother, Zhao Xiaoyan thought again of the dance teacher's son, who had shown herself to him that night. She also had a brother. Brother, again. But the former was in trouble, while the latter was being rushed to his death. Zhao Xiaoyan, very expensive? He Fei, very expensive. In order to treat his brother, his parents had to sell their house and car, but with monthly expenses of nearly 100,000 yuan, our family could no longer afford it. "So that's why you found Jolian?" I understand everything. Zhou Liang gave you 100,000? Zhao Xiaoyan remembered that Ma Qing seemed to have mentioned this. He Fei nodded. "I found him the other day, and he promised to give me 1 million, and I agreed to be his woman for a year. But he couldn't come up with that much money all at once, so he gave me 100,000 first, saying that he would give me the rest later. I never thought that President Zhou, who always flaunts himself as a student representative, would actually be someone who takes advantage of a situation. I despise him." Zhao Xiaoyan took out his phone and directly transferred another 100,000 yuan to He Fei. "I'll transfer you 100,000 yuan back. Help people to the end, and see them off to the west. I've lost 1 million yuan, so I don't care about another 100,000 yuan." He Fei looked up at Zhao Xiaoyan as she read the message that 100,000 yuan had been credited to her account, nodded, "And I told you I found a buyer?" Zhao Xiaoyan was infuriated by this woman. He had never mentioned buying her, but this woman kept talking about selling. It was hard to be a good person for once, but He Fei was determined to make it a transaction. "Whatever." Zhao Xiaoyan was also angry. But in the end, he said softly, "Just say that you have a relative who is willing to support your family." He Fei looked at Zhao Xiaoyan and a smile appeared on her face for the first time. Ding, target's favorability towards the host plus 30, current favorability 20. Listening to the system's prompt, Zhao Xiaoyan silently opened his phone. After doing a good deed, it's time to collect some benefits. Half a minute later, He Fei looked at the message that 5 million yuan had been transferred to his account, and looked at Zhao Xiaoyan in confusion. "Why did you transfer another 5 million yuan to me? Let's say I'm buying you for another 5 years, plus the previous 1 year, that's exactly 6 years. 6, I like this number. He Fei, LSP. Ding, host's favorability towards target 20, current favorability 0. It was silence again. Fortunately, this time the silence didn't last long, and it was broken by the doorbell. Zhao Xiaoyan walked quickly over to open the door. A waiter pushed a cart in and handed Zhao Xiaoyan a large paper bag before walking out. "You didn't eat much tonight, so I ordered some food, I don't know if you like it or not." Zhao Xiaoyan handed the paper bag in his hand to He Fei. "Your clothes are dirty, so I asked the hotel reception to buy you a set of clothes, so you can wear them for now." He Fei took the paper bag and looked at the sumptuous food on the trolley again. Tears began to well up in her eyes. Ding, target He Fei's favorability plus 20, current favorability 20. Zhao Xiaoyan's head immediately swelled. Is this woman really made of water? How many times has this happened? Won't the tears ever dry up? Just stop crying. I've booked the room for one night, so you can sleep for a while after you've finished eating. If you don't want to go back to the school, you can also spend the night here. I'll put some money on deposit at the reception, so just ask them for anything you need. Just remember to check out when you leave. With that, Zhao Xiaoyan rubbed his palms together and said, well, if that's all right, I'll be going first. He Fei was a little surprised. You're not staying here? Zhao Xiaoyan actually really wanted to, and even if he slept with He Fei, it would be justified. But for some reason, Zhao Xiaoyan really didn't want to do it, at least not right now. No. Zhao Xiaoyan walked towards the door, but just as he reached it, He Fei called out to him again. You've been buying me for 6 years, and I still don't know your name. My name is Zhao Xiaoyan. Ding, target He Fei's favorability plus 10, current favorability 30. Zhao Xiaoyan left the Golden Field Hotel and was about to hail a taxi to go back to his rented room. In fact, Zhao Xiaoyan really didn't have any other thoughts about helping He Fei this time. Although he was not a saint, nor was he the eunuch Lu who could sit still for anything. However, he could not bring himself to choose to sell himself to a woman for the sake of his family. At least not today. The taxi had just driven off towards the rented room when his phone rang. It was the cold and aloof female teacher Sun Yalan. Hello, Miss Sun. Zhao Xiaoyan, hello, I hope I'm not disturbing you. The voice on the other end of the line was that of Sun Yalan, a mature woman, but her voice felt a little forced. Chapter 19, Sun Yalan invites you to dinner. I looked at the time, and now Sun Yalan should still be at school. I guess she is calling from her office, that's why her voice is so low. It doesn't bother me. What can I do for you, Miss Sun? Zhao Xiaoyan was curious and didn't know why Sun Yalan asked. Sun Yalan hesitated for a moment and said, I've finished dealing with my business, thank you for your help. So, I would like to invite you to dinner tonight to thank you. Zhao Xiaoyan's mouth curled up at the corner when he heard that the beautiful teacher had actually volunteered to take him to dinner. I'll treat you to dinner, you choose the place. Sun Yalan hurriedly said, it's me who should thank you, how can I let you treat me? The time is set for 6 p.m., I'll send you the address later. Okay, I'll be there on time. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't dwell on who was treating whom, since he would just pay in advance. Okay, that's it for now, bye. Shanghai Road is considered the city center, and there is a Sichuanese restaurant with old Sichuanese characteristics on this road, which is also the location Sun Yalan has arranged. When it was a few minutes to 6 o'clock, Zhao Xiaoyan arrived, but Sun Yalan arrived even earlier than him. Xiaoyan, this way. Sun Yalan had been watching the door, and when she saw Zhao Xiaoyan appear, she stood up and waved at him. Sun Yalan was dressed in a professional manner today, wearing a white knitted women's slim fit shirt, black loose-fitting trousers and a pair of black stiletto heels. Her long black hair was not disheveled, but was pinned up at the back of her head with a large hair clip. Instead of looking sloppy, it added a touch of sophistication, exuding the aura of a professional woman from head to toe. A beautiful woman with a cold and aloof temperament like Sun Yalan attracts attention everywhere she goes. At the mere wave of her hand, Zhao Xiaoyan noticed that many men around them were looking over. Sorry, Miss Sun, I'm late. Zhao Xiaoyan sat down opposite Sun Yalan and apologized. Sun Yalan gave a smile. You're not late, I'm early. The waiter appeared at the right moment when the guests were seated. Madam, may I take your order? You can serve the food now. Sun Yalan nodded and said to Zhao Xiaoyan, sorry, I thought you would be late, so I took the liberty of ordering the food first. Miss Sun, you're too kind. I don't have any food preferences, I can eat anything. In a short while, the waiter brought the food in succession. Sliced boiled pork, mao shui wang, mapo tofu, stir-fried vegetables, plus a soup. These were all standard dishes in a normal Sichuanese restaurant. But for 2 people, it seemed a bit extravagant. To Zhao Xiaoyan's surprise, Sun Yalan had also ordered alcohol, although it was just a few bottles of beer. Xiaoyan, I'm sorry, my teacher's salary isn't high, and I have to save money to pay you back, so I can only invite you to eat in a place like this, Sun Yalan said apologetically. Zhao Xiaoyan let out a sigh of relief. Hey, look what you're saying, this place is pretty good, and I like spicy food, it's just my taste. As for the money, don't worry about it, you don't have to pay me back. Sun Yalan had already awkwardly opened the beer and poured it into Zhao Xiaoyan's glass, then poured herself a glass as well. Xiaoyan, thank you for helping the teacher out, this glass of wine is from the teacher to you. Sun Yalan raised her glass, her eyes full of sincerity. Zhao Xiaoyan immediately raised his glass as well, saying, "Teacher Sun, I'm too polite to accept this." Boom. After the glasses lightly touched, Sun Yalan tilted her head and brought the wine to her lips. Perhaps she drank too quickly, because after finishing the drink, Sun Yalan couldn't help but cough twice. "I'm sorry, I've never drunk before, so I'm a bit unaccustomed to it." Sun Yalan explained, a little embarrassed. These days, there are actually people who have never drunk before? But perhaps in order to refute Zhao Xiaoyan's doubts, Sun Yalan's face suddenly turned red. Everyone else had a drink, and Zhao Xiaoyan didn't hesitate, swallowing the drink in one gulp. He didn't dare to say that he was drinking white wine, but Zhao Xiaoyan was confident that he could drink a case of beer. Zhao Xiaoyan had just put down his glass when Sun Yalan filled it up again, and then raised the glass again. "For this second glass, I have to thank you for your trust." Sun Yalan smiled. After another glass of wine and a couple of coughs, Sun Yalan said in a lecturing tone, "Remember, if you lend someone money in the future, make sure they write you an IOU. That was 3 million yuan, and you didn't even make your teacher write an IOU. You really have a big heart." Upon hearing this, Zhao Xiaoyan laughed and said, "You're my teacher, so you don't need to do that. Besides, I already said that the money was a gift to you, so there's no need for an IOU. The system said that cashback is available for girls who have been locked out and fought back. But if you write an IOU, then it's not a purchase, and if the system doesn't count it as a purchase, then what's the point of the cashback? This bug can't be fixed, I wonder if there's a catch." Upon hearing this, Sun Yalan was unhappy and said, "This won't do. 3 million is no small sum, it's enough to buy a flat in Lingzhou. No, I'll write you an IOU later. I really can't take it." Zhao Xiaoyan also became anxious. If the IOU was really written, he didn't know what the consequences would be. Sun Yalan stubbornly said, "It must be written." Seeing that Sun Yalan was determined to write the IOU, Zhao Xiaoyan became anxious and subconsciously said, "How about this? You can consider the 3 million as my tuition. You teach me to dance and I will pay the tuition. Is that okay?" As soon as she heard the word dancing, Sun Yalan didn't know if it was the alcohol talking or if she had thought of something, but her already somewhat red face suddenly turned even redder. "Dancing? If you want to learn, I can teach you. But you don't have to pay tuition." Zhao Xiaoyan interrupted, "You have to charge. You are our Lingde University's goddess teacher, the dream girl of many boys. I'll make a fortune if my dream girl teaches me to dance. Just for your status, you must be worth that much." "It's settled then. I'm your dream girl?" Sun Yalan seemed to have caught something key, suddenly looking up at Zhao Xiaoyan. "Of course I am." Zhao Xiaoyan said subconsciously, but immediately felt something was wrong, and explained, "Well, Miss Xiao, don't get me wrong. What I mean is that you're so pretty, and the boys all like you." Ding, target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 50. Sun Yalan didn't say anything, poured herself a glass, and then gulped it down. Then she looked at Zhao Xiaoyan, as if she wanted to say something, but couldn't. After a moment of hesitation, she poured herself another glass and gulped it down again. Zhao Xiaoyan was confused by Sun Yalan's actions. What was teacher Sun doing? It looked like she was gathering her courage, but it also looked like she was drinking herself into a stupor. Chapter 20, Pretending to be drunk. After 2 glasses of wine, the bottle of Tsingdao in Sun Yalan's hands had visibly emptied. Looking at Sun Yalan again, her face was flushed and her eyes were beginning to fill with the smell of alcohol. Sun Yalan looked at Zhao Xiaoyan with drunken eyes and asked, "Xiaoyan, do you really like me?" She had already said what she wanted to say, and Zhao Xiaoyan could clearly feel that the atmosphere was a little different. So she didn't beat around the bush, nodded and said, "I like you. You're so pretty and have such a good temperament. What man wouldn't like that? I knew it. Who else would just give away 3 million yuan like that?" Sun Yalan let out a smile with a hint of drunkenness, "But Xiaoyan, you can't have any thoughts about me. I'm your teacher, and I'm older than you." Zhao Xiaoyan retorted, "I'm about to graduate and I'm already an adult. That's not going to work. People will talk." Sun Yalan burped. "Teacher can tell, you really like me, 3 million yuan of true feelings, which is more real than any oath of love. And what's with the dancing lessons? You don't look like you're interested in dancing. You're actually finding ways not to let me pay you back. But 3 million is too expensive and too heavy." Sun Yalan took the bottle of wine in front of Zhao Xiaoyan and poured herself another drink. "Do you know? When I saw the car that was smashed by my brother, I almost fainted. 3 million, a full 3 million. I also asked the 4S shop, and they said that it was a Ferrari 911, and it would cost that much to repair. Zhao Xiaoyan interrupted and asked, where was it smashed? The Seven Colors bar. I heard that the car belongs to the owner of the bar. After a glass of wine, Sun Yalan continued, my brother is a freeloader. My father passed away early, and my mother has no money, so I have to pay back the debt. I borrowed from all my colleagues, and it was okay to borrow a few thousand or tens of thousands, but who would lend you that much for no reason? I also approached a rich second generation who was after me, and he agreed, but on the condition that I become his girlfriend. I knew he was just taking advantage of the situation. At this point, Sun Yalan looked at Zhao Xiaoyan. Just when I was forced to hesitate whether to compromise, you appeared. You were willing to give me 3 million, but there was a condition. Do you know what it was? At the time, when I heard you say there was a condition, I thought you were the same as that rich kid, coveting my body. I was very angry, really angry. What did you all take Sun Yalan for? But when you said your condition was for me to dance, I couldn't believe it. At this point, Sun Yalan looked at Zhao Xiaoyan and gave a smile, you really are silly. But in a cute way. Zhao Xiaoyan. Why does this sound so annoying? In the end, Sun Yalan got drunk. Zhao Xiaoyan had also seen someone get drunk on 3 bottles of wine for the first time, and it was beer. But Zhao Xiaoyan did not stop Sun Yalan. It can be seen that this matter has been like a heavy burden weighing on her for almost a month. Once released, even someone as cold as Sun Yalan needs to be released. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't know what was wrong with him today. The 2 women he had encountered had actually had similar experiences. Sun Yalan's brother's matter was considered settled. But Hefei's brother's illness would continue for an unknown period of time. In the end, Zhao Xiaoyan paid the bill as he wished. Unfortunately, it was only 200 yuan, and Sun Yalan's favorability rating was not high. It was also less than 10,000 yuan in cashback. Drunk people are heavy, whether they are men or women. Sun Yalan looked quite slim, but after all, she was 1.7 meters tall, and her figure was maintained by years of dancing. Even if she was lighter, she could not weigh less than 100 pounds. Coupled with being drunk, even though Zhao Xiaoyan felt that his physical fitness was not bad, he was panting when carrying her. Zhao Xiaoyan originally wanted to take Sun Yalan back to the teacher's apartment at the university, but he thought about the last time he took a big man like himself back, and Sun Yalan was careful. Not to mention that she was drunk today. If someone saw him taking her home drunk, it would be hard to explain. After all, people's words can be terrible. Zhao Xiaoyan didn't care, but Sun Yalan's reputation still had to be protected. He had thought about taking her to a hotel, but Sun Yalan's ID card was nowhere to be found, and it was not good to go through someone's bag. After thinking about it, he had no choice but to take her back to his rented room. He got the key, opened the door, and turned on the lights. After Zhao Xiaoyan put Sun Yalan on the bed, he collapsed on the ground. It was tiring enough to carry her, and there was no elevator in the rental house, so he had to climb 4 floors. Zhao Xiaoyan really had no strength left, so he sat on the ground, gasping for breath. It took a long time for him to regain his strength. He gently helped Sun Yalan lie down comfortably on the pillow, got up, walked to the end of the bed, and took off the stiletto heels Sun Yalan was wearing. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 10, current favorability 40. The sudden system alert startled Zhao Xiaoyan, and he forgot to take his hand off Su Yuting's foot. Zhao Xiaoyan, the system always provides feedback on the target's favorability in a timely manner, but Sun Yuting is drunk, so how can her favorability change? But then, the system voice sounded again. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 50. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 10, current favorability 40. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 50. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 10, current favorability 40. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 50. Finally, the system gave a direct prompt. Ding! The target Sun Yalan is experiencing severe psychological fluctuations at this time, and her favorability is changing frequently. This system will not repeat. Zhao Xiaoyan caught a keyword: frequent fluctuations. How could someone who was drunk and asleep have severe psychological fluctuations? Unless. Zhao Xiaoyan thought about it, he put Sun Yalan's bare feet back in place and walked back to the bedside. After looking at her for a while, Sun Yalan still looked like she was asleep, and he didn't notice anything unusual. As he watched, Zhao Xiaonian's eyes could not help but slowly move down her face. Although Su Yalan's clothes were not disheveled at this time, and the white silk shirt had only the first button undone, there was a magic that tempted Zhao Xiaonian to see what kind of scenery was underneath the shirt. After taking a few breaths to shake off this evil thought of taking advantage of a vulnerable person, Zhao Xiaonian reached out and gently covered her stomach with the quilt. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 60. Here it comes again. Chapter 21, Not a Successful Counterattack. Zhao Xiaonian looked into Sun Yuting's eyes. Her eyes were closed at the moment, and her fair face still carried a rosy flush from the wine that hadn't dissipated. Her delicate nose was small but straight. Zhao Xiaonian noticed that Sun Yuting's head was tilted a little abnormally, and realized that it was being held in place by a large hairpin at the back, so he reached out and gently lifted her head. Ding! Target Sun Yaling's favorability 10, current favorability 50. Zhao Xiaonian. Ignoring the system's prompt, Zhao Xiaonian carefully removed the hair clip and gently placed Sun Yuting's head back on the pillow. Ding! Target Sun Yaling's favorability plus 10, current favorability 60. Just then, Zhao Xiaonian noticed Sun Yaling's closed eyes tremble slightly twice, before quickly returning to normal, as if that moment had been an illusion. Is Teacher Sun pretending to be drunk? I understand. No wonder the system said that Ms. Sun had strong psychological fluctuations, and it also explained why her favorability rating changed frequently. Because she wasn't drunk at all, but was pretending to be. But why did she have to pretend to be drunk when she clearly wasn't? Even if Zhao Xiaonian was stupid, he guessed the most likely possibility. Recalling the things Sun Yalan had said at the dinner table, she felt that she was a teacher, and that identity she could not accept with her students. But this favor was too heavy, so heavy that she didn't know how to repay it. So she chose to pretend to be drunk. When she woke up, she attributed everything to the deep intoxication caused by the wine. Of course. As for why Sun Yalan did this, Zhao Xiaonian had no idea. But he believed that, given Sun Yalan's personality, she would also try her best to return the 3 million to him as soon as possible. Of course, Zhao Xiaonian would never accept it. There is also an important premise here. That is Sun Yalan's favorability towards him. After all, before, Sun Yalan's favorability rating was only 40, which was equivalent to someone you were familiar with. But now her favorability rating has reached 60, which is only 10 points lower than Zhang Yuhan, who initiated the kiss last night. Maybe? Sun Yalan kind of likes me? Thinking about this, Zhao Xiaonian felt a sense of accomplishment well up in his heart. The cold female teacher and goddess in the hearts of boys could actually like him, which was something he never dared to think before. He had sworn that he would hit on every pretty girl he saw, and Zhang Yalan was the first person he had systematically targeted. Besides, he had already been tested once today by He Fei, and he was not about to be a saint. So, Zhao Xiaonian grinned at the corner of his mouth, but didn't make a sound, just looking at Sun Yalan's pretty face. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 70. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 10, current favorability 60. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 10, current favorability 70. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 10, current favorability 60. Suddenly, the system prompt sounded again without interruption. Zhao Xiaonian really wanted to laugh, because he hadn't even moved yet and he could see how nervous Teacher Sun was. He reached out and gently placed his hand on Sun Yalan's cheek, feeling her slightly cool face. He just quietly looked at her for a while, and then slowly popped his head up and gave her red lips a gentle peck. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 20, current favorability 50. Give her another kiss. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 20, current favorability 70. Give her another kiss. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability 40, current favorability 30. It's late at night, and Zhao Xiaonian turns off the light casually. Ding! Target Sun Yalan's favorability plus 50, current favorability 80. Ding! Counterattack completion 80%, no complete counterattack reward triggered, please keep up the good work. Zhao Xiaonian didn't know what happened last night or when he fell asleep. When he woke up, it was already bright outside, and the sun was about to set. Sun Yalan had also left without saying goodbye, leaving behind a faint smell of her on the bedding, proof that a woman had slept in the bed not long before. Zhao Xiaonian had bought the bed, brand new. When he bought it, he had thought the woman who would sleep on it would be Qin Yizhuan, but instead, Sun Yalan had become the first woman to sleep on it. How fickle the world is. Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't help but feel a little heart flutter. Then he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. At this moment, Zhao Xiaoyan remembered the reward for last night's counterattack. Because he was doing something important, he had time to go and see it. Looking at the system, since Sun Yalan's favorability rating was only 80, there was no complete counterattack reward. He was curious, if the favorability rating reached 100, what kind of reward would there be? It seems that he really needs to make persistent efforts. At this moment, the phone rang, pulling Zhao Xiaoyan's thoughts back. He took out his phone and saw that it was a strange number. Zhao Xiaoyan clicked to answer. Hello. Is this Zhao Xiaoyan? It was a woman's voice on the other end of the line, and Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't think of who it was for a moment. It's me, who is this? It's He Fei. Zhao Xiaoyan was taken aback. He didn't expect He Fei to be looking for him. Even if she was, she shouldn't have been able to find him so quickly. What's up? Do you need something from me? On the other end of the line, He Fei said apologetically, Are you free to come out for a bit? Okay, where are you? I'll come to you. I'm still at the hotel. Okay, I'll come over now. On the way to the Golden Mile Hotel, Zhao Xiaoyan suddenly felt that it was time to buy a car. In the past 2 days, he had taken taxis far too often. They say that no man doesn't love cars, and he was now a multi-millionaire, so buying a car shouldn't be too much. 10 minutes later, the taxi stopped in front of the Golden Mile Hotel. Pay and get off. Zhao Xiaoyan took the elevator directly to the 8th floor. He rang the doorbell, and the door opened quickly. Zhao Xiaoyan quickly entered the room and saw that He Fei was the only one in the room. He asked, What's the rush? Is something wrong? He Fei was wearing the clothes that Zhao Xiaoyan had asked the receptionist to buy yesterday. The clothes fit her well because the system knew her height. However, the style was just so-so and didn't bring out her beauty. I returned the money to Zhou Liang. He kept calling me and asking if I had found someone else. Chapter 22, Further Troubles. You didn't tell him it was a distant relative. But he insisted that I tell him face to face. He Fei looked helpless. He said that because of me, he and Ma Qing broke up. Now that I've gone back on my word, he's determined to make me responsible. Zhao Xiaoyan was speechless. Zhou Liang really isn't open-minded enough. For the breakup with Ma Qing, he can only blame himself for taking advantage of someone in trouble and then seeing a pretty girl. Besides, Ma Qing seemed to treat him well. Although his looks and figure were not as good as He Fei's, they were definitely quite good. He had a girlfriend like this, but he didn't cherish her, and instead he had designs on He Fei, and dumped Ma Qing. In the final analysis, it was all Zhou Liang's own fault. Now he's turning around and blaming He Fei, which is really unmanly. Blame? How? Zhao Xiaoyan asked. He didn't say it explicitly, but I feel like he wants to. He Fei's face turned red, and she lowered her head, afraid to look at Zhao Xiaoyan. But don't worry, I'm already yours, I didn't agree to him. In fact, He Fei didn't know why, but when something like this happened, the first thing that came to her mind was that unremarkable figure. Zhao Xiaoyan was speechless. What kind of thing is this? But he also knew that although He Fei had started it, the fault wasn't hers. In fact, strictly speaking, Zhou Liang and He Fei had actually struck a deal, but he had come between them and ruined Zhou Liang's good deed. But now, it would obviously be inappropriate to let He Fei face it alone. It seems that he still has to step forward and talk to the student president. Upon thinking about this, Zhao Xiaoyan sighed and said, It's fine, just leave it to me. How are you going to talk to him? He Fei asked with concern. Zhao Xiaoyan said impatiently, How? Sell him to him again. He Fei, however, laughed, You won't. Why? Because you're a good person. Zhao Xiaoyan was speechless. He had spent 6 million yuan only to earn a good person card and have to battle the student president for her. These days, a good person card is no good. When a woman tells a man that he is a good person, it is definitely not a good thing to hear. Zhao Xiaoyan glared at He Fei viciously. I don't want to hear you call me a good person, and I don't need your good person card. If you dare to call me a good person again, I'll let you spend Women's Day next year and Mother's Day the year after next. He Fei's face suddenly turned red, and she bit her lip without saying a word. She turned her head and looked at Zhao Xiaoyan with a face full of resentment. Ding, target He Fei's favorability 15, current favorability 45. No way, can this reduce favorability? Zhao Xianyan was really speechless when he heard the system's prompt. The impulse just now directly reduced his favorability by 15 points. It's really hard to increase favorability, but it's easy to reduce it. But there's nothing you can do now, since it's been deducted, you have to find a way to make it up. Zhao Xianyan sat on the sofa, pondering what to do about this. After seeing that Zhao Xianyan did not seem to have any follow-up actions, He Fei timidly climbed out of bed and sat opposite Zhao Xianyan. Zhao Xianyan scratched his head and asked, "You didn't go back to school, so you were afraid that he would find you?" He Fei nodded and then shook her head. Ma Qing was also there, blocking me in the dormitory. In fact, this morning, He Fei did go back to school. She thought the matter had passed, but when she returned to the dormitory, she somehow let Ma Qing know. She had not been in the dormitory for 2 minutes when Ma Qing came looking for her, crying and cursing, calling He Fei a third party who had destroyed her love. If she hadn't been stopped, Ma Qing would have attacked her. He Fei, who was already weak and introverted, was naturally no match for Ma Qing. She was in a daze and only after being reminded by her roommate did she rush out of the dormitory. Unable to stay at school, He Fei returned to the hotel. After thinking about it, He Fei, who really hadn't paid attention, naturally thought of Zhao Xianyan. For some reason, although she had only spent less than an hour with Zhao Xianyan, He Fei had a lot of trust in him. In Zhao Xianyan, she felt a sense of security. Thinking about Ma Qing's domineering personality, who dared to directly kill her boyfriend when she found out he was with another woman, Zhao Xianyan felt that He Fei was definitely no match for her. Not to mention He Fei, even if Zhao Xianyan encountered Ma Qing in a rampage, he would probably have to retreat 3 miles. Later, with the help of a few roommates, she managed to escape from the dormitory after avoiding Ma Qing's harassment. However, Zhou Liang kept calling again and again. With Ma Qing in front of her and Zhou Liang behind her, He Fei didn't dare to stay in school for a moment, for fear that if something really happened, it would be over. With no other choice, He Fei had to hide back in the hotel. Fortunately, Zhao Xianyan had reserved a hotel with enough deposit, and the hotel returned the deposit to her when she checked out before. So, she took the deposit and reopened the room. She also got Zhao Xianyan's phone number from the hotel reception. When checking in, Zhao Xianyan used his own ID card to check in. Hiding all the time was not a good idea. Zhao Xianyan scratched his head and thought for a while before taking his mobile phone out of his trouser pocket and opening the contacts list. He Fei saw that he seemed to be going to call someone, and asked, "Who are you going to ask for help?" "I heard that Zhou Liang's family is still a bit powerful in this city. I'm afraid that knowing that his family is a bit powerful, you still dare to mess with him?" Zhao Xianyan glared at her impatiently. This woman is really something. She obviously didn't want to, but she made that decision anyway. Now it's fine, the rest is all his Zhao Xianyan's. He Fei put on a look of grievance. "I was in a hurry at the time." Zhao Xianyan thought about her brother's situation and said, "Remember to call your parents and tell them that you got the money, and don't tell them stupidly that you sold yourself, or I'm afraid they'll come after me. And if the money runs out, just ask me for more. And don't go messing around, got it?" He Fei's mouth curled up, and she nodded vigorously. "Yes, I got it." Ding, target He Fei's favorability plus 10, current favorability 55. Hearing the system prompt that He Fei's favorability had changed again, Zhao Xianyan looked at He Fei speechlessly. Did this woman's love and hatred change so quickly? Seeing that Zhao Xianyan suddenly looked at her again, the blush that He Fei had just faded away climbed back up her fair face. Ignoring this woman whose love and hatred was ever changing, Zhao Xianyan finally found the phone number he was looking for in his phone's address book and dialed it. Chapter 23, Going Clothes Shopping. "Who are you calling?" He Fei asked nervously. Zhao Xianyan didn't answer him because the other end of the line had already been connected. "Hello, it's me, Xianyan." A hearty voice came from the other end of the line. "I know it's you. Why did you suddenly think of calling me?" "I want to know how the second generation of your family, who is about to inherit the family business, is living a carefree life." Zhao Xianyan also laughed. On the other end of the line was Zhang Haolong, who had not been seen for a long time in the dormitory. As soon as the subject came up, Zhang Haolong's whole body felt bad. "You have no idea what kind of life I'm living right now. Every day, it's either meetings or looking at mind-numbing reports, and in the evenings, I have to go to all kinds of receptions and dinners with my father. Cough, my brother is suffering. What's there to cry about? You'll inherit your family business before you graduate, so just be happy." Zhao Xianyan is sick of people like him, who are always so self-important. After a few more idle words, Zhang Haolong suddenly said seriously, Tell me, what do you want from me? We've been friends for years, so don't give me any nonsense. Zhao Xianyan was also unceremonious, asking, I hear you're very close to Zhou Liang? Zhou Liang? The student union president Zhou Liang? Yes. Zhang Haolong asked, his family has some business dealings with my family, so we are acquaintances. Why did you suddenly mention him? Zhao Xianyan weighed his words carefully and explained, I had a falling out with him, and I didn't want to make a big deal of it, so I wanted to find you, the peacemaker, to come and reconcile. Zhang Haolong was even more puzzled and casually said, what kind of falling out could you have with him? Did you steal his woman? Well. Zhao Xianyan thought about it and realized that it was true. Holy cow! Is that true? Zhang Haolong's voice on the other end of the phone immediately raised an octave. You stole Ma Qing? Then, Zhang Haolong negated himself, no way, you couldn't have stolen Ma Qing. That woman was hell-bent on marrying Zhou Liang. Then who could it be? Wait, you stole his woman, so what about your wife Chen Yizhuan? Zhang Haolong had not returned to school since the beginning of the 4th year, and had been working in his own company since the summer vacation, so he was relatively cut off from all news. It's over. Zhao Xianyan didn't bother to explain. Then, don't worry about it so much. Can you step in on this matter? There's no problem stepping in, but you have to tell me first which woman you stole. Zhao Xianyan couldn't stand this chatterbox. It couldn't be explained in a few sentences. Can you go back to school for a while recently and we can talk in person? Okay. I'll make time. The phone hung up. After hanging up the phone, Zhao Xianyan said to Yifei, who had been watching him the whole time, my roommate is friends with Zhou Liang, so I'll see if he can help. Yifei asked, and if it doesn't work out? Zhao Xianyan thought for a moment and said, then I don't mind using another method to make him bow to me. After all, I'm a person with a system, and there may be no other way, but when it comes to money, no one in the world can beat me. Asking Zhang Haolong for help was not because he was really afraid of Zhou Liang, but just because he didn't want to go through all that trouble. He wasn't afraid of Zhou Liang looking for him, but he was afraid of Zhou Liang causing trouble for Yifei. He could not possibly be by her side 24 hours a day. It's fine, you don't need to worry about this, I'll handle it. Until it's done, you'll be staying at the hotel. Zhao Xianyan looked at the room and then looked at Yifei again, and waved his hand, following me. Where are we going? Yifei asked. To buy you some clothes. Longsheng Square. Longsheng Square may not be the most crowded in Lingzhou, but it is definitely the most famous. It is a well-known high-end commercial street in Lingzhou, full of exclusive stores selling world-famous brands. You can't buy clothes in Longsheng Square without spending tens of thousands of dollars. Since they were buying clothes for Su Huaxing's goddess of revenge, and there was a rebate, Zhao Xianyan took Yifei here directly. And Yifei was not surprised that Zhao Xianyan had come here to buy clothes. After all, this person could easily afford to pay 6 million to buy himself, and Yifei had no doubt about Zhao Xianyan's financial foundation. Yifei's family was actually quite well off. After all, it was definitely not possible to afford to send your child to dance school from an early age without some financial resources. It's just that since her younger brother was diagnosed with primary immunodeficiency 2 years ago, the family has been struggling to pay for his treatment. The once prosperous family has been left heavily in debt. In the past 2 years, Yifei has not bought such nice clothes again. If she wants to buy clothes, she will buy them online at a discount. Although Yifei has also spent money in luxury brand stores, it has been a long time since she did so. Walking into Longsheng Plaza, Zhao Xianyan saw the Chanel boutique after just a few steps. Zhao Xianyan didn't consult Yifei's opinion and just walked in. Yifei saw Zhao Xianyan enter Chanel and hesitated for a moment, but then followed him in. Welcome. The salesperson saw the customer come in and very politely welcomed him, without the kind of vulgarity of looking down on people. After all, it is a big brand, and they still value the professionalism of their employees. Zhao Xianyan swept his hand around and said to Yifei, who had followed him, feel free to pick whatever you like. Everything here is not cheap, at least 4 digits. Why don't we go to another store? Although Yifei knew that Zhao Xianyan was rich, he was buying clothes for her after all, and she subconsciously wanted to save money for him. Zhao Xianyan naturally knew what Yifei meant, but he wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity to earn cash back. You're my person now, so I'll buy you nice clothes, or else you'll lose me as a person. Zhao Xianyan himself didn't know why, but when he was with Yifei, he always adopted a very firm attitude. Yifei, but. There's no but. Just go when I tell you to. If you don't want to choose, I'll choose for you. Not only will I choose for you, I'll even try it on for you myself. Zhao Xiaoyan acted like a big bad wolf, scaring Yifei. Yifei was really scared, and she recalled the ambiguous atmosphere when they were alone in the hotel room. She had no doubt that Zhao Xiaoyan would really do such a thing. Yifei, like a young wife who had suffered an injustice, answered with a wry smile, "Oh, I'll pick it out." The salesperson watched from the side, and although he didn't understand the relationship between the two young people, since Zhao Xiaoyan was determined to make his female companion spend money, the salesperson's spirit was immediately activated, and he worked hard to make recommendations to Yifei. "Miss, this is our seasonal fashion. Miss, I think this one suits your temperament perfectly. Miss, I strongly recommend that you try this on. Miss, and this one." Chapter 24, Buying Clothes is So Extravagant. Helly was led around by the salesperson, looking at this and that. Suddenly, she didn't know what to choose. Zhao Xiaoyan saw her like this and said, "If you think it suits you, go try it on and show it to me." "Oh." Hefei hesitated for a moment and took one in. 1 minute later, Hefei came out of the fitting room. It was a long blue dress with a simple lace design that made Hefei look more elegant and reserved. "This one is good. Change again." "Hefei. This one is also okay. Change again." "Hefei. This one is also okay. Change again." Later, Hefei tried more than 10 new seasonal items before Zhao Xiaoyan gave up. The waiter was getting a little impatient by now and asked, "Miss, which one do you think is suitable?" Hefei didn't say anything. In fact, she had liked every item she tried. But after all, Zhao Xiaoyan was paying this time, and she didn't dare to buy too much. These weren't a few hundred yuan items, each one was often 4 digits, and 2 of them were even 5 digits. So Yifei began to agonize, deliberating over those few pieces of clothing. All of this was naturally caught in Zhao Xiaoyan's eyes as he sat on the sofa waiting. He was now afraid that Yifei would buy too little and cheaply, but he would never complain if she bought too much and expensively. If she spends 1 yuan less, she earns 5 yuan less. Zhao Xiaoyan absolutely will not allow anything to stop him from getting rich. So Zhao Xiaoyan got up from the sofa and walked over to Yifei. When she saw him coming, Yifei thought he was getting impatient, so she picked up the nearest item she liked and said to the salesperson, "Let's choose this one." "Why this one?" Zhao Xiaoyan casually flipped through the clothes tags. "Wow, only 1,200? It's the cheapest one in here, right?" Yifei thought that Zhao Xiaoyan was unhappy. Watching Zhao Xiaoyan flip through the tags, Yifei suddenly felt a little guilty. "Maybe I should change another one, this one is too expensive." Zhao Xiaoyan ignored Yifei and said directly to the salesperson, "Pack up all the clothes that this lady just tried on." The salesperson was taken aback, but quickly put on a surprised expression and said, "Yes, sir." After that, he quickly took down the clothes and went to pack them, as if he was afraid that if he waited a second longer, Zhao Xiaoyan would change his mind. "This is too much, and it's going to cost a lot of money." Zhao Xiaoyan gave her a look and said, "You look beautiful, and it makes me look good. In the future, when you go shopping, don't try to save me money. The more expensive it is, the more I like it. Swipe the card and pay." 5 minutes later, Hefei followed Zhao Xiaoyan out of the Shanghai boutique. As for the clothes, there were just too many, so Zhao Xiaoyan had them delivered directly to the hotel. Ding, target Hefei's favorability +5, current favorability 55. Sure enough, no woman can resist nice clothes, and Hefei was no exception. It's just that the favorability is rising a bit slowly. So, Zhao Xiaoyan switched to shopping mode. A famous cosmetics brand. See what you need and have them wrap it up. Don't leave any cosmetics behind. Yifei. Swipe the card and pay. A Donkey brand specialty store. Is that bag the latest model? Yes, sir. This is our brand's new bag, and the price is. I'll take this bag, wrap it up. Yifei. Swipe the card and pay. 2 hours later, Yifei still felt a little unreal. It's amazing, just amazing. Is this how you always buy things? Hefei couldn't help but ask Zhao Xiaoyan, carefully. I didn't buy like this before. It's so extravagant. Zhao Xiaoyan said honestly. He used to buy his own clothes on Taobao. As for buying for himself, he wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to earn cashback so that he could choose from all kinds of big brands in the future. But this honest answer sounded like something else to Hefei's ears. He is so rich, but he feels that buying clothes for himself is a luxury. But if he buys them for me, he just buys whatever I like. Could it be that he thinks I'm not good enough for him? Hefei couldn't help blushing again when she thought about this, and looking at Zhao Xianyan's back, she couldn't help but daydream. Although he is only average looking, he is actually quite handsome after a long time of looking. Ding, target Hefei's favorability +5, current favorability 60. Zhao Xianyan, very good, it was finally worth the effort. After walking for a while, Zhao Xianyan stopped in front of a shop and said to Yifei with some embarrassment, "You go in by yourself, I won't accompany you." Yifei looked up and saw that it was a women's underwear shop, and her face turned red again. When they were at the hotel, Zhao Xianyan only bought clothes for outside, and he had never changed his underwear. 10 minutes later. Looking at the 2 paper bags in Yifei's hands, which were tightly sealed, Zhao Xianyan asked with a strange voice, "How old are you?" The blush that had just faded returned, and she lightly pouted, but she also answered with a ghostly voice, 32D. Ding, target Hefei's favorability +10, current favorability 70. Zhao Xianyan, haha. 2 hours later, Hefei, who had been influenced by Zhao Xianyan's money, had changed a lot. Although Hefei's previous clothes were not too bad, compared to her current appearance, she has undergone a transformation from ugly duckling to swan. Of course, Hefei was not ugly to begin with, on the contrary, she was very pretty. At this time, Hefei was wearing a long, blue, Chanel dress, with a pair of Jimmy Choo blue high heels, and carrying a limited edition donkey bag. She looked like a rich girl. Combined with Yifei's own noble temperament and her slender figure of 175 centimeters in high heels, her aura seemed to have opened up all at once. No one would believe that Yifei was not a rich girl if they were told otherwise. With this contrast, Zhao Xianyan, standing next to them, looked even more out of place. He is only 173 centimeters tall, and now in front of Yifei, he is 2 centimeters shorter. Coupled with his plain attire, he looks like the sidekick carrying the bag. After carefully looking at Yifei up and down, just as Yifei's face was turning red, Zhao Xianyan finally slapped his palm and suddenly realized, "I wondered why it always felt strange, it turns out that there is still a watch missing. It seems that there is one over here, let's go and have a look." Yifei, who had been numbed by Zhao Xianyan's ability to manipulate people, followed him in her high heels. Because he had not been to Longchang Square before, Zhao Xianyan still took a lot of detours before he found a watch shop on the 3rd floor. Not to mention, this shop was quite large, with more than 200 square meters of shop space alone, occupying 4 storefronts. Upon seeing the sign on the lintel Bida, "Very good, this is the one." Chapter 25, a vulgar plot unfolds. Although dressed in a pair of street-sourced goods, Zhao Xianyan just walked in with a swagger. Yifei, who followed behind him, didn't pay attention to this either. Seeing that Zhao Xianyan had gone in, she followed suit. A saleswoman in a professional lady's suit saw the two of them come in and, in 0.1 seconds, took Yifei, who was wearing an expensive designer outfit and had entered a step after Zhao Xianyan, as a customer, and ignored Zhao Xianyan, who had entered first. In her opinion, Zhao Xianyan should just be a follower, and well, not even worthy of being a lapdog. "Hello, madam, welcome to Bada. How may I help you?" Yifei pointed at Zhao Xianyan and said, "He wants to buy it, so you ask him." The saleswoman looked shocked. She had never imagined that her customer was the snooty woman standing next to her. Seeing that Zhao Xianyan was wearing clothes that cost less than 200 yuan in total, she immediately lost interest in selling to him. Pretending not to see, she didn't even bother to serve him. But although she ignored Zhao Xianyan, he happened to approach her. "Hello, take this watch out and have a look." Zhao Xianyan pointed at a lady's watch in the glass showcase. "You can't afford this watch." The sales assistant didn't even move, and replied in a cold tone. Zhao Xianyan's anger was aroused by the sales assistant's arrogant manner. He could ignore her earlier when she ignored him. But now she's still being like this when he's the one who asked to take a look. "How do you know I can't afford it?" Zhao Xianyan asked with a smile instead of anger. The saleswoman tapped the glass countertop with her finger and said, "Can't you see the price tag? It says 988,000 yuan. Do you have that kind of money?" Yifei, who had not paid much attention, suddenly had her eyes wide with surprise when she heard the number. She was about to stop him, but Zhao Xianyan gave her a stop sign. "What if I can afford it? If you can afford it, I'll call you a bully." The saleswoman glanced at Zhao Xianyan, her face full of contempt. But the next second, a bank card appeared in front of her. Swipe the card. This is a card that looks like it's been swiped a lot. Some parts of the card have already faded, looking worn out, making people wonder if it can actually swipe out that much money. But seeing that Zhao Xianyan doesn't want to joke, the saleswoman suddenly panicked for some reason. However, she still firmly believed in her own judgment. She had worked at Bata for several years and thought she still had a good eye for things. Since this brat insisted on buying it, she would just swipe the card. When the time came and there wasn't that much money in the card, she would see how she could laugh at this ignorant little shit. Taking out the POS machine, the saleswoman directly entered a series of numbers, ran the magnetic strip, and said, "Now, enter the password." Zhao Xianyan took the POS machine and started entering the PIN. The saleswoman looked at him with a sneer on her face. He Fei looked at him with a helpless expression. Under the watchful eyes of the two, accompanied by the squeaking sound of the receipt printing, Zhao Xianyan successfully swiped 988,000 yuan. Zhao Xianyan looked at the saleswoman, who was full of shock, and knocked on the glass counter. "Can I get the watch now?" Seeing that Zhao Xianyan had really swiped 988,000, the saleswoman couldn't believe her eyes. She was still in a daze. A fat man hurried over, put on a warm smile, and said to Zhao Xianyan, "Yes, sir." His attitude was as good as it could be. This fat man was actually the manager of the store, and he had witnessed everything that had just happened. Before Zhao Xianyan successfully swiped his card, he didn't believe that Zhao Xianyan could afford a 980,000 watch. He also felt that if he were to buy one, he could only afford it if he wore an expensive Hermes, and the unremarkable Zhao Xianyan could never afford it. So when the saleswoman obviously snubbed Zhao Xianyan, he did not step in to stop it. However, reality greatly exceeded his expectations. Zhao Xianyan not only could really afford it, but also, in a fit of pique, paid directly without even looking at the watch carefully. He had only seen such generosity in those coal barons. So, he could no longer sit still. He hurriedly came to personally receive him. Although 980,000 yuan was not a big customer for Bata, it was precisely this kind of impulsive spending by Zhao Xianyan that made him feel that this boy's purchasing power was definitely not limited to this. This is definitely a big customer, a wealthy person who is not short of money and loves to act low-key. After receiving the lady's watch respectfully handed over by the fat man, Zhao Xianyan directly handed it to Yifei next to him, saying, "Go ahead and wear it." "You really gave it to me?" Yifei looked at the lady's watch handed over to her, and although she had long since guessed, she was still shocked. If Zhao Xianyan had previously given her a bag, clothes, and bought her shoes, she would have been surprised but could have still acted composed. Now, however, faced with a 980,000 yuan Patek Philippe, she was in a state of great daze. This also made him have a new understanding of Zhao Xianyan's wealth. Who else would you give it to if not you? You should put it on quickly. Since Yifei has not yet accepted the watch, it is not yet considered a successful purchase, and the cashback notification has not yet arrived, so Zhao Xianyan hurriedly urged her. Yifei's hands were trembling, and it took her several attempts to get the watch onto her wrist. Zhao Xianyan gave a satisfied smile as he looked at Yifei. It was as if a designer was admiring a work of art that he had created from start to finish. Zhao Xianyan, very good, now you look a bit like a goddess. Host targets Hefei, spending 988,000 yuan, triggering 70x cashback. Sure enough, while Hefei was putting on the watch band, Zhao Xianyan successfully triggered the cashback. With 70x cashback, there was a total of more than 69 million yuan, plus the previous assets. At this moment, Zhao Xianyan's personal assets had reached the 100 million mark and were heading towards 200 million. Zhao Xianyan smiled, laughing like a fool. If it weren't for the inappropriate situation, he would have jumped up and down with laughter. This wave, huge profit. Ding, target Hefei's favorability plus 10, current favorability 80. Upon hearing the system's prompt, Zhao Xianyan subconsciously looked at Hefei. He saw that Hefei was also looking at him, and when she saw his gaze, she immediately shyly turned her head away. "Sir, here is the packaging and warranty card, please keep it." The fat man handed Zhao Xianyan the bagged watch box and the documents with both hands, and then took out another form. "Sir, since you have purchased our Beta GTU 88 series watch, you are already our valued Beta customer. Please fill in this form so that we can provide you with quality after-sales service." Many big brands have this method in order to retain big customers. The form is very simple, just fill in the basic personal information. Zhao Xianyan cooperatively filled out the form. The fat man glanced at the form and then put it away, before handing over a business card with both hands. "Mr. Zhao, I am Wu Youfu, the manager of this store. You can also give me a call if you need anything in the future." Zhao Xiaoyan took the business card and glanced at the side, asking Wu Youfu, Manager Wu, I wonder if your brand is one that keeps its word? Chapter 26, A Man's Bad Taste. Wu Youfu was shocked for 0.5 seconds, and then instantly understood what Zhao Xiaoyan meant. He smiled and said, that's natural. Then he turned his attention to the saleswoman standing nearby, said sternly with a stern face, Fan Shelley, you just made a bet with Mr. Zhao. Now that Mr. Zhao has bought the GTU 88, you should fulfill the bet. Fan Shelley looked reluctant, and just as she was about to say something, she saw Wu Youfu say again, if you fulfill the bet, then I will dismiss you for neglecting the customer. Upon hearing that she was going to be dismissed, Fan Shelley also became anxious. Although she was only a salesperson, she did work for a top luxury brand, which was very prestigious. Moreover, the salary and benefits here were very good, and she could get a handsome commission for selling a watch. She could not bear to lose such a good job. Thinking about this, her face was extremely unnatural, and she didn't dare to look at Zhao Xiaoyan. She whispered, Baba. Zhao Xiaoyan put his hand by his ear and asked, what did you just call me? It was too quiet, I didn't hear it. Fan Shelley had to take a deep breath and shouted, Baba. Zhao Xiaoyan let out a cold snort and said, come on, I don't have a daughter like you who looks down on people. When Zhao Xiaoyan left, Wu Youfu respectfully saw him to the door, and did not return to the store until Zhao Xiaoyan was out of sight. Fan Shelley came over with tears in her eyes, Manager, look at that person just now. Shelley, this time you have to learn a lesson, you can't judge people by appearances alone. As punishment, the bill from Mr. Zhao just now will not be counted. Fan Shelley, Manager. Wu Youfu, good girl, I'll make it up to you tonight. After leaving Bada, Hefei kept glancing at her expensive watch every now and then. Her face was still shocked. Zhao Xiaoyan asked, does it look good? Hefei nodded honestly, yes. Then, Hefei seemed to have thought of something, her face turned red first. Do you like it when people call you Baba? Zhao Xiaoyan trembled, almost unable to hold himself back, and then subconsciously responded, eh. Upon hearing Zhao Xiaoyan's response, Hefei reached out to hit him. However, Zhao Xiaoyan had already run away after responding. Looking at Zhao Xiaoyan's back, Hefei suddenly smiled and said softly, yuck, the bad taste of a smelly man. For lunch, Zhao Xiaoyan and Hefei ate at the French restaurant on the 4th floor of Longcheng Plaza. It was the same restaurant that Sun Yalan had visited the day before. Although Zhao Xiaoyan still had no interest in French food, he couldn't bring Hefei to fast food or something like that because of her attire. Since they would get 80 times the cash back anyway, Zhao Xiaoyan would not be stingy and take Hefei to eat. Let's just call it a happy ending to Hefei's luxurious shopping trip to Longcheng Square. After dinner, Hefei was taken directly by Zhao Xiaoyan to a large real estate agency near Lingzhou University. What are we doing here? Hefei looked at Zhao Xiaoyan, who was about to step inside, and grabbed his sleeve. Zhao Xiaoyan had a reasonable expression on his face and said, what else are we doing here? Buying a house, of course. Hefei thought that Zhao Xiaoyan wanted to buy a house himself, so she didn't say anything else and followed him in. Hello, miss, are you here to buy a house? Zhao Xiaoyan was speechless. He had once again been ignored. The moment Hefei walked in, all the real estate salespeople were transfixed, and even the few female salespeople showed expressions of astonishment and envy. Beautiful and rich, that was the impression Hefei gave people. So when the nearest male salesperson greeted them, he didn't even mention renting a house. Bah, people like this rich guy, would they rent? Hefei glanced at Zhao Xiaoyan's depressed expression and laughed, covering her mouth. It's not me, it's him who wants to buy. The male salesperson suddenly showed a disappointed expression, and only then turned around, as if he had just seen Zhao Xiaoyan. Sir, do you want to rent? Zhao Xiaoyan was so depressed. You asked her if she wanted to buy a house, but when you asked me, you asked if I wanted to rent. The male salesperson didn't respond, but looked at Zhao Xiaoyan and asked, what kind of property are you looking for? We have quite a few properties here. Do you want a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment? Zhao Xiaoyan didn't want to deal with him anymore, so he looked at the other salespeople and pointed at a male salesperson who looked relatively agreeable. Hello, could you introduce me? The male salesperson who was pointed at was a bit embarrassed, and looked at his colleague from earlier. This gentleman asked you to come, so just come. It's not a lot of money anyway, so just use it as practice. The male salesperson then walked over, smiled and asked, hello sir, what type of property are you looking at? Renting or buying? Zhao Xiaoyan looked at his name tag, which said Zhu Xiaoming, and said, Xiaozhu, do you have any villas for sale here? Xu Xiaoming was shocked. You want to buy a villa? Mr. Zhao, this villa is the most expensive one we have. It covers an area of more than 3,000 square meters, with gardens in the front and back, and a small swimming pool in the backyard. Xu Xiaoming took the key and opened a door, revealing the full view of the villa to Zhao Xianyan. It is a modern Chinese-style villa, with a small bridge and flowing water in the front yard. The designer has put in a lot of thought to achieve a beautiful appearance without affecting the walking line. The front yard alone has an area of more than 200 square meters, which makes it seem very spacious. There are 3 floors above ground and 2 underground. The living room is designed with a height of 6 meters, and there is no sense of oppression when meeting guests or relaxing. The basement is equipped with a karaoke room and a gym, both with double sound insulation to ensure quietness elsewhere. Xu Xiaoming took Zhao Xianyan and He and carefully looked at the villa inside and out. At first glance, Zhao Xianyan liked it. What do you think? Zhao Xianyan asked He next to him. He took a look and said it was quite nice. So do you like it? Zhao Xianyan continued to ask. I like it. I've never lived in such a nice house before, He said. Zhao Xianyan asked Xu Xiaoming, how much is the asking price for this villa? Xu Xiaoming carefully held up one finger, 100 million. Hearing this number, He gasped in shock beside him. Zhao Xianyan, on the other hand, looked indifferent, nodded, and said, okay. You now make an appointment with the landlord to see if you can come. I can sign the contract now, and pay the full amount. Xu Xiaoming felt like he had been hit in the head by happiness when he heard that Zhao Xianyan really wanted to buy it. He nodded his head and said quickly, okay, sir, I'll contact the landlord right away. He also needs the money urgently and should be able to come over right away. Chapter 27, Of course I bought it for you. Xu Xiaoming went to contact the homeowner, and Zhao Xianyan and He sat on the sofa in the living room. After watching He, who always twisted around after sitting down, Zhao Xianyan asked, what's wrong? He said apologetically, I haven't worn high heels in a long time, and my feet hurt. He had worn high heels for nearly 3 hours this afternoon, and her feet really couldn't take it anymore. And because of Zhao Xianyan's bad taste, he bought He some high heels that were fine to look at, but they were a pain to wear. Zhao Xianyan covered his embarrassment and said, then take off your shoes. Do you have smelly feet? You have smelly feet. He was taken aback by Zhao Xianyan's words, and angrily took off her high heels, revealing her small feet, which she rubbed together in a very unpresentable manner. She looked up and saw that Zhao Xianyan was looking at her, and her face flushed as she shifted position. Mr. Zhao, the owner said he'd be there in 10 minutes, so please wait a moment. After making the call, Xu Xiaoming walked briskly in. He saw an outsider come in and hurriedly tried to put on her shoes, but heard Zhao Xianyan say, you rest here. Xu Xiaoming, let's go outside and have a smoke. He knew that Zhao Xianyan was looking after her, and a sweet smile immediately appeared on her face. 10 minutes later. A middle-aged man in a suit walked into the villa on a hot summer day. Mr. Zhao, this is the owner, Mr. Zhou. Mr. Zhou, this is the buyer, Mr. Zhao. Xu Xiaoming quickly introduced the 2 men when he saw them come in. Mr. Zhou did not look down on Zhao Xianyan in any way because he was wearing a suit from a street stall. After the 2 men shook hands, Mr. Zhou said, Mr. Zhao, have you seen the house? Are you satisfied? Very satisfied, Zhao Xianyan said honestly. Haha, it seems that Mr. Zhao is also a person of taste. Mr. Zhou laughed, pointing vaguely at the villa and saying, I hired a famous designer to design the entire place, and the entire renovation cost me nearly 20 million. The furniture inside is all complete, all big name brands, and you can move in directly with just your suitcase. In fact, I bought this villa for retirement, and I haven't lived here once in the 4 years since I bought it. Zhao Xianyan could tell that the other party genuinely liked the house and wasn't just saying it to drive up the price. Mr. Zhou, I'm going to ask you a question. Since you like this villa so much, why are you selling it? Zhao Xianyan felt that it was always good to get to the bottom of things. Mr. Zhou didn't hold back, saying, to be honest with you, my company is having some difficulty with cash flow, so I urgently need a sum of money. So I have to reluctantly part with it. Zhao Xianyan didn't beat around the bush, saying directly, okay, let's go with the price of 100 million. If that's fine, Xu Xiaoming can draft the contract. Xu Xiaoming added in a timely manner, Mr. Zhao said that he can pay the full amount at once. This remark caused Mr. Zhou, who had always appeared calm, to show a look of surprise on his face, as if he were a little surprised. He then shook his head and laughed at himself, saying, Mr. Zhao is young but has such courage, which is really awe-inspiring. The next thing that happened went very smoothly. Real estate agents have a complete set of supporting services, and Zhao Xiaoyan directly transferred the money. Then he told Zhu Xiaoming, the property ownership certificate can be in the name of the lady who came with me. Seeing that He Fei was not around, Zhao Xiaoyan hurriedly shouted, He Fei, give me your ID card. A moment later, He Fei stepped out of the living room in high heels, took out her ID card, and asked, What do you need my ID card for? Zhao Xiaoyan took her ID card directly and handed it to Zhu Xiaoming before saying to He Fei, Nothing, I just bought this villa for you. These words surprised the three of them. Zhu Xiaoming. Mr. Zhou. He Fei. Why are you giving it to me? This is not acceptable, I can't take it. After a moment of confusion, He Fei shook her head like a rattle. I said I'll give it to you, so I'll give it to you. You can't live at school anymore, not to mention Zhou Liang, just Ma Qing alone is enough to annoy you. And staying in hotels all the time isn't a solution either. This villa is fully furnished, so I'll have the groceries delivered there and you can move in straight away. I'll buy you a car later, so you can commute to school more easily. He Fei didn't say anything after hearing this, just looked at Zhao Xiaoyan for a long time before letting out a small "oh." Ding, target He Fei's favorability plus 10, current favorability 90. At this point, Zhao Xiaoyan looked at Mr. Zhou and asked, Mr. Zhou, does the community have housekeeping services? Mr. Zhou replied busily, this is Longsheng Houting, and it comes with professional butler services. If Mr. Zhao needs them, he can call the property management company and have the butler come over. Zhao Xiaoyan nodded and continued to He Fei, then there won't be any problems. You don't have any money on you, do you? I'll transfer some more to you. With that, he transferred 5 million to He Fei. He Fei subconsciously said when she saw the account information, you bought me for another 5 years? Zhao Xiaoyan listened with a head full of black lines. Mr. Zhou and Zhu Xiaoming were directly choked and turned their heads to look at the scenery on the side, pretending not to hear. He Fei realized belatedly that she had said the wrong thing, and she was suddenly ashamed and annoyed. She paced in her high heels and hid back in the living room. Mr. Zhao is really generous. Spending 100 million yuan to hide a sweetheart in a golden house, I admire that. Mr. Zhou teased appropriately, obviously showing a sense of closeness. Nonsense, if someone can spend 100 million yuan just to let their lover live there, how strong must that person's personal capital be? And Zhao Xiaoyan still looks so young, so I presume that all his energy comes from his family behind him. Thus, the identity of a mysterious rich young man and family member was added to Zhao Xiaoyan's head by Mr. Zhou's imagination. As for why Zhao Xiaoyan was dressed so plainly, it was because the truly wealthy pay less attention to what they wear, which allows them to travel the world more freely. By the way, is this far from the bus or subway station? Once you leave the gate of the residential area, there is a subway station 200 meters to the left, and a bus stop 300 meters to the right. Zhu Xiaoming, as a working person, is naturally familiar with the public transportation routes in the area. It's just that Mr. Zhou is a little curious. Mr. Zhao, don't you have a car? Zhao Xiaoyan was very honest and said that he didn't have the money to buy one. Zhao Xiaoyan was telling the truth. 3 days ago, he really didn't have the money to buy a car. Not to mention buying a car, he couldn't even afford a bicycle. Mr. Zhao laughed. Naturally, Mr. Zhou didn't really think that Zhao Xiaoyan couldn't afford a car, and simply took Zhao Xiaoyan's words as humor. Jokes aside, someone who can buy a house for 100 million yuan without blinking an eye is not going to be unable to afford a car. Chapter 28 Miss Zhou. How about this? I happen to own a car dealership, not far from here. If Mr. Zhao is interested, why don't you come by and take a look to see if there's anything suitable? Although Mr. Zhou was trying to drum up business, he actually valued Zhao Xiaoyan as a person and wanted to make friends with him. Oh, that's great. Is now a good time for you? Zhao Xiaoyan was interested as soon as he heard this. Mr. Zhou was eager to have some interaction with Zhao Xiaoyan, and he laughed, sure, I'll have my driver bring the car in. Men are naturally interested in things like buying cars. Of course, Zhao Xiaoyan could not forget He Fei, the goddess of counterattacks, and he directly asked He Fei to come along. While Zhao Xiaoyan followed Mr. Zhou to choose a car, Zhu Xiaoming went to handle the relevant procedures for transferring the villa. Mr. Zhou's car dealership was not far away, just a 10-minute drive away. But after seeing Mr. Zhou's car, I felt that this middle-aged man must be very wealthy. Driving a Rolls-Royce, it seems that Mr. Zhou is no ordinary businessman. Mr. Zhao, this is my humble car dealership, said Mr. Zhou, pointing to a car dealership. It would not be an exaggeration to call it a car dealership or even an automobile city, as it was really quite large. On the 5 or 6 foot tall signboard by the gate were the logos of various luxury car brands. As soon as he walked through the door of the car dealership, he was greeted by a tall, sexy woman wearing a white professional uniform and black stockings on her legs. She took hold of Mr. Joe's arm and said, "Dad, what brings you here?" The woman was really beautiful. Her well-cut uniform showed off her figure to the fullest. Zhao Xianyan had seen this woman before, and she was the most attractive woman in a professional outfit. Especially those black silk legs, which were not inferior to Yifei's even when compared. Among the women that Zhao Xianyan has met, only Zhang Yuhan's long legs can compare. The most important thing is that this woman not only has a good figure, but her appearance is also exceptional. Her fair skin has a hint of rosy redness, which is aesthetically pleasing but not sickly. Her large eyes make her look very intelligent and wise. Her slightly plump lips add a touch of charm. Zhao Xianyan recognized the beauty the moment he saw her. Zhou Jiaying, once a figurehead at Lingzhou University, was crowned the school's most beautiful girl. However, Zhou Jiaying graduated from university last year, leaving only her reputation to circulate on campus. It was at this moment that the system's prompt sounded. Ding, found lockable target. Zhou Jiaying. Age, 24. Face value, 95. Height, 170. Strategy points, 0. Favorability, 0. Without even thinking, Zhao Xianyan directly targeted this person. Jiaying. However, Yifei, who was standing next to Zhao Xianyan, suddenly shouted out in joy, which startled Zhao Xianyan. Fei? Zhou Jiaying also saw Yifei and a happy smile appeared on her face, with dimples immediately appearing. The two girls held hands, like old friends who had reunited after a long time apart. Seeing this, Mr. Zhou asked his daughter, Jiaying, "Do you know this person?" Since he had never been introduced to Yifei, Mr. Zhou did not know how to address her. Zhou Jiaying said to her father, "Dad, this is my junior from university. We were both in the dance club. By the way, Dad, how did you two end up together?" Mr. Zhou laughed, looked at Zhao Xianyan, and said, "Mr. Zhao, it seems we really are destined to be together. We hit it off right away, and I didn't realize that my daughter also knew your friend. It's fate, really, it's too much of a coincidence." Zhao Xianyan was a little embarrassed at this point, and after scratching his head, he said, "Please don't call me Mr. Zhao anymore, just call me Xianyan. In fact, I also know Miss Zhou, I also go to Lingzhou University, I'm a senior this year." Mr. Zhou was stunned, and laughed even more happily. "This is really a coincidence, a really big coincidence, I didn't realize that you and my daughter were also alumni. You also don't have to call me Mr. Zhou anymore, my name is Zhou Bohai. I'll call you Xianyan, and you can call me Uncle, you shouldn't lose out." "Uncle Zhou, you're too kind," Zhao Xianyan said hurriedly. Zhou Jiaying glanced at Zhao Xianyan, who was having a good time chatting with her father, and teased Yifei, "Fei, what's your relationship with this boy?" Zhou Jiaying's question stumped Yifei. She didn't know how to define their relationship either. Business relationship? Friendship? Lovers? Lover? This of course could not be told to Zhou Jiaying, so she just said perfunctorily, "We're just friends." Friends? How can I believe that? Zhou Jiaying smiled, her eyes clear and bright. At this point, Zhou Bohai interrupted the two women's reminiscing, "Jiaying, Xianyan wants to buy a car, so help him out." As soon as she heard that it was business, Zhou Jiaying immediately adjusted to a professional state. After apologizing to Yifei, she walked over to Zhao Xianyan and asked, "Mr. Zhao, is there a particular car you like?" After all, she was once his schoolmate, and now she is even more of a target for him to fight back against, as she is locked in by the system. Zhao Xianyan was busy saying, "Senior Zhou, please don't call me Mr. Zhao, just call me Xianyan." "That's fine. I wonder what car you are planning to buy, Zhao Xianyan." Zhao Xianyan really didn't want to buy a specific car. This time, he just happened to be here, so he shook his head and said, "No, I don't." "Why don't you recommend one for me?" "Zhou Jiaying, what price range are you thinking of?" "Zhao Xianyan, I'm fine with anything in the millions, as long as it's available now and I don't have to wait." Zhou Jiaying was a little surprised to hear Zhao Xianyan talk about luxury cars. After thinking for a moment, she said, "There are no luxury cars in the millions that are available now, they all need to be reserved. But we have a new Ferrari 812 Superfast here. I'm not sure if it's to your liking." Zhao Xianyan asked, "How much?" 5.3 million. In fact, Zhao Xiaoyan didn't really feel much about sports cars. In his opinion, buying a car doesn't necessarily have to be a sports car. However, when he saw the black Ferrari 812 Superfast, Zhao Xiaoyan was deeply attracted. Zhou Xuejie, can you apply for a license here? Yes. If you're in a hurry, I can also help you arrange a temporary license plate first. Once the official license plate arrives in a few days, we can provide installation. Good. Zhao Xiaoyan replied, then looked at Yifei to the side and held out his palm. Seeing Zhao Xiaoyan's appearance, Yifei took a step back and said, "Why are you using mine again? Hurry up and bring it." Seeing this, Yifei reluctantly handed over her ID card to Zhao Xiaoyan. Chapter 29, You're buying it? Zhao Xiaoyan took Yifei's ID card and took out the worn-out bank card that had never changed, and handed it to Zhou Jiaying together, saying, "Senior, I'll take this car." The owner's name is Yifei. He was also very surprised to see that Zhao Xiaoyan had only looked at the car for less than 3 seconds before deciding to buy it. He didn't feel like he was buying a car, but rather a cabbage. Then, when he heard that Zhao Xiaoyan was buying this 5 million yuan luxury car and was actually giving it to Yifei, he was shocked again. Even the way he looked at Yifei had changed, as if to ask, "Is this the friendship you were talking about?" It's over, there's no way to explain it. The Zhou family car dealership is still very efficient. After the full payment was made by credit card, the temporary license plate was already installed on the black Ferrari 812 in less than half an hour. Zhou Jiaying then handed the car purchase book directly to Yifei, ignoring Zhao Xiaoyan, and even teased her, "Fei, your suitor is really generous to you." Yifei was so flattered that she blushed before she could say anything. "Zhou Xuejie, do you still have any cars in stock? It had better be suitable for a girl to drive." Although it was bought for Yifei, in fact, Zhao Xiaoyan himself wanted to drive this 812, for no other reason than because the car was really cool. So, when he saw Yifei, he suddenly felt a bit sorry for her, so he simply bought another one. "You want to buy another one?" Zhou Jiaying was shocked again by Zhao Xiaoyan, but after thinking about it, she said, "If it's suitable for girls, then I recommend the Porsche Panamera. It's overall." Before Zhou Jiaying could finish speaking, there were 2 more cards in front of her, an ID card and a worn-out bank card. He bought it? Even Zhou Jiaying, who had seen the world, was a little stunned at the moment. He had seen extravagance before, but never like this. He didn't even look at the car before buying it directly. How could he not take money seriously? Ding, target favorability +3, current favorability 3. Half an hour later, 2 sports cars in contrasting colors, one black and one red, were driven up to the front of the car dealership. Zhou Bohai, who had been watching the whole time, walked up at this point and handed Zhao Xiaoyan his business card. "Xiaoyan, let's exchange phone numbers. Since we're so fated, and you're an alumnus of Jiaying's, you can come over to the house sometime. A successful businessman will never let slip an opportunity to expand his network." In particular, Zhao Xiaoyan's wealth and generosity on display today made Zhou Bohai unable to resist the urge to really get to know him. It so happened that recently the Zhou family had run into some problems with their cash flow, and perhaps Zhao Xiaoyan could help. Of course, he would never say anything like that now. He would have to find a good time, and more importantly, he would have to test Zhao Xiaoyan's character. He didn't want to ask for help and end up inviting a wolf into the house. Zhou Jiaying also exchanged phone numbers with Zhao Xiaoyan and even added him on WeChat. With the Zhou family father and daughter watching on, Zhao Xiaoyan and Yifei drove off in their 2 sports cars towards the villa in Longshanghouting. Because Zhu Xiaoming was already waiting for them there. As he watched the 2 cars drive off, Zhou Bohai asked his daughter standing next to him, "What do you know about this Zhao Xiaoyan? I've never heard of him before." Zhou Jiaying naturally knew what her father meant and asked, "Do you want him to help our family?" Zhou Bohai nodded, "I have that in mind. But we still have to see what kind of person he is. By the way, Jiaying, since you are an alumnus, you might as well get close to him and see if he can help our family get through this difficult time." "Dad, does he have that much money?" "Although he bought 2 cars, he does have some strength. But the funding gap we need is so large, can he do it?" Zhou Bohai looked at his daughter and said, "Do you know why he came with me?" Zhou Jiaying didn't know, and thought they had just happened to meet at the door. But listening to her father's words, she could tell there was obviously something else going on. "I don't know. I sold the villa at Longshanghouting, and the buyer was him." Zhou Jiaying was shocked. Just like when he bought the car earlier, in less than 5 minutes, he paid the full price of 100 million yuan without any bargaining. Zhou Jiaying was even more shocked. And as he was saying this, Zhou Bohai looked at his daughter and saw that the villa was also in the name of that girl. Zhou Jiaying. When the two luxury cars arrived at the gate of the Longshanghouting community, Zhu Xiaoming had already been waiting there. Seeing that Zhao Xiaoyan had actually returned in a Ferrari, and He Fei was also driving a Porsche, he immediately became even more respectful towards Zhao Xiaoyan. Zhao Xiaoyan got out of the car, and Zhu Xiaoming jogged over. "Mr. Zhao, the villa has been transferred to you." Zhu Xiaoming respectfully handed Zhao Xiaoyan the property ownership certificate. Zhao Xiaoyan took it and casually threw it into the passenger seat of He Fei's car. He Fei. "Then Mr. Zhao and Miss He, if there's nothing else, I'll be going first." "Okay, thank you for your hard work." After taking the property deed and registering the car at the security guard's office at the entrance of the residential area, she asked the security guard to call the property manager, and then drove into Longshanghouting. Villa 8, Longshanghouting. He Fei, sitting on the sofa and rubbing her little feet, felt like she was dreaming. Yesterday, she was still a miserable person who was ready to sell herself for 1 million. In just one day, she had experienced earth-shattering changes in all aspects of her life, including food, clothing, housing, and transportation. Wearing designer clothes, stepping in designer shoes, carrying a designer bag, and now sitting in a luxury mansion worth 100 million, and owning 2 Porsches worth nearly 10 million under his name. And all of this was given to her by the unremarkable man sitting in front of her. And this man also bought her for 11 years, but has never touched her once. Well, spanking doesn't count. To be honest, in the face of such a charming man, there are really not many women who can remain indifferent. He Fei thought about it and suddenly asked Zhao Xiaoyan, who was sitting on the sofa with his eyes closed, to refresh his memory. "Hey, when did you want me after all?" Zhao Xiaoyan was startled and almost fell off the sofa. The property manager was really dedicated to his job. After hearing that Zhao Xiaoyan had bought Villa 8, he brought a team of nearly 20 domestic helpers over. An hour later, the entire villa had been cleaned from top to bottom. Actually, the villa wasn't very dirty in the first place, as the property management company would accompany someone here every week. It was just that Zhao Xiaoyan was the new owner, and the housekeeper wanted to make a good impression on the owner, so he came again deliberately. What surprised Zhao Xiaoyan even more was that the property management company even provided chef services. Of course, none of the above services were free. Chapter 30, The Bull. After eating the dinner prepared by the property manager, Zhao Xiaoyan was washing the dishes in the kitchen while He Fei stood in the kitchen doorway watching him. By now, He Fei had changed into her loungewear and had replaced the high heels on her feet with slippers. She had also paid for the clothes she had bought to be delivered to the hotel to be delivered again. "You can either help or watch TV. Don't just stand there in the doorway like a supervisor." Zhao Xiaoyan felt uncomfortable being watched by He Fei. He Fei let out a little sound, walked into the kitchen, and stood next to Zhao Xiaoyan, helping to clear the dishes. From the way she looked, she was not the type of person who would do nothing but rely on others at home, and she still did housework in a proper manner. However, the way this little girl occasionally cast her eyes towards Zhao Xiaoyan still made Zhao Xiaoyan feel that she was up to something. "Just say it, what is it that you want?" Zhao Xiaoyan put down the dishes and asked. "Shouldn't we congratulate Fei?" This time, contrary to her usual behavior, she didn't blush, but looked at Zhao Xiaoyan stubbornly. "Don't get me wrong, I just don't want to keep on owing people. And she bought me so many things. And the car and the house in my name, they're all too valuable, I'm afraid I can't afford them." "Why can't you afford them? Do you feel like you owe me?" Zhao Xiaoyan asked. He Fei nodded. "No other reason?" "None." Zhao Xiaoyan nodded and replied firmly, "Okay." The villa had many rooms, with a total of 7 on the second and third floors. Zhao Xiaoyan unceremoniously took the master bedroom on the third floor, while He Fei chose a bedroom on the second floor. At 11 p.m., Zhao Xiaoyan took an early shower and lay down in bed. His room was not locked. After waiting half an hour and seeing that the door had not been pushed open, Zhao Xiaoyan turned off the light and was about to go to bed. It had been a really busy day, and after a while, he felt a little sleepy. Just then, the door was gently knocked twice, and then pushed open. He saw He Fei standing timidly in front of the door. At this moment, He Fei was very nervous, her heart pounding nervously, and her hands interlaced and rubbing against each other from the tension. "Have you thought it through?" Suddenly, Zhao Xiaoyan's voice rang out, and He Fei trembled all over. He Fei bit her lip and answered, but her voice trembled. Zhao Xiaoyan looked up and looked directly at He Fei. With the moonlight streaming in through the window, Zhao Xianyan looked at Yifei, and Yifei looked at Zhao Xianyan in the same way. Although I helped you solve things, you don't have to do this. I mean it. Zhao Xianyan said calmly. Yifei was stubborn, however. I promise you that I will do what I say. Then, do you like me? Zhao Xianyan asked. Yifei thought for a moment, and said, maybe. There was a moment of silence. Zhao Xianyan said, I don't like women who betray me. If I find out that my woman has betrayed me, I will not hesitate to take back everything I can give, and then kick that woman away. Yifei said, I won't betray you. Very good. Remember your words. Zhao Xianyan said imperiously. Ding, target Hefei's favorability plus 10, current favorability 100. Ding, counterattack completion 100%, triggering full counterattack reward traditional Chinese medicine proficient. Ding, no cashback for any purchases made by target goddess Hefei. The next day, the weather was sunny. Zhao Xianyan woke up, or rather, he was woken up by the numbness in his arm. He opened his eyes and saw Hefei sleeping soundly. Looking at Yifei's sweet face, Zhao Xianyan couldn't help but kiss her on the cheek. MMM. Yifei opened her eyes and saw Zhao Xianyan looking at her. She suddenly blushed and didn't dare look at him. There was shyness, embarrassment, and trepidation, but there was no regret. Are you awake? Zhao Xianyan gently brushed the hair off Yifei's cheek in a very gentle motion. Hefei turned her back to Zhao Xianyan and didn't dare to look at him directly. Her entire head was tightly wrapped in the quilt, like an ostrich. It was past 10 o'clock. Zhao Xianyan saw Hefei awkwardly walking down the stairs after finishing breakfast. Seeing Zhao Xianyan looking at her with a wicked smile, Hefei gritted her teeth with hatred. This woman had already reached 100% favorability with him, and had even offered herself to him. Zhao Xianyan felt a genuine liking for her. However, because it was a complete reversal with 100% favorability, the system had actually cancelled Hefei's cashback. This meant that any future purchases Zhao Xianyan made for Yifei would be coming out of his own pocket. Although this result was very frustrating, seeing Yifei's pretty face made Zhao Xianyan not worry about it. After all, he still had quite a few cashback goals to achieve, so this one wasn't a problem. 11 years, we said 11 years, and after 11 years we'll part ways as friends, Yifei said, finally managing to move to the table and glaring at Zhao Xianyan with her big eyes. Zhao Xianyan continued to smile. Rascal. Bull. He doesn't know how to treat a lady. Yifei muttered a few more words and then gulped down her bread. Ring ring. At this time, Yifei's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, then at Zhao Xianyan, and after a moment of hesitation, she pressed the answer button. Hello, Mom. What? Yifei didn't know what she heard, but she suddenly stood up, her expression tense. Mom, I'll be right there. The call ended quickly. Yifei put the unfinished bread on the plate, turned around, and was about to leave. Zhao Xianyan hurriedly asked, What's wrong? My brother's situation is not good, I'm going to the hospital. Zhao Xianyan remembered Yifei had said her brother had primary immunodeficiency, which was why Yifei had sold herself. He said hurriedly, Which hospital? I'll go with you. The first hospital.